A morning which seemed to have little to no news has changed dramatically, with Edu reportedly leaving the club. We talk about this and more in today's Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is the Arsenal News Show. Joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time, where we bring literally minutes ago some pretty heavy and breaking news from an Arsenal perspective. Sami Mokbel of the Daily Mail reporting that Arsenal sporting director Edu is leaving the club in what is described as a major blow to Mikel Arteta. Of course, the man that signed Martin Odegaard and Declan Rice and others. I'll read you the story. You can read it, of course, on the Mail website. Mikel Arteta is to lose a key ally at Arsenal, with highly rated sporting director Edu set to leave the club. The Brazilian, a former Arsenal midfielder, has been responsible for capturing key signings such as Martin Odegaard and Declan Rice, and in leading Arsenal's strong performance in recruitment and delivering key players to the club. He's widely thought of as one of the leading sporting directors in the world for masterminding the change in Arsenal's signing surge, as well as supporting the offloading of troubled stars such as Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, who was considered part of a failed past. Talks have been ongoing with the club's hierarchy, and while the reasons are currently unclear, it is his decision to go. More details are expected to emerge in the next 24 hours. It is thought there may have been a reshuffle in responsibilities among the Arsenal hierarchy in key positions, but it is too simplistic to suggest there has been a power struggle, one source has told the Mail. Edu, regularly photographed by the club photographer alongside new signings and quoting the official club releases, has been the driving force behind a cultural change at the club since he took the role in 2019. He was appointed because he gets the club and what is needed. One former teammate said there is a class about the guy. Then director of football Raul Sanllehi said, well, head of football at the time, we're very excited that Edu is joining the team. He has a great experience and technical football knowledge, and so on and so forth. So a quick roundup of this news is that, of course, in short, if this report is accurate, Edu is leaving the club. It is a decision of his own, not anyone else's, and that a reshuffling behind the scenes is said to have happened, but would be suggested as too simplistic. That there has been a power struggle. Of course, we know that Arsenal have seen some changes behind the scenes. We've seen Richard Garlick move to a managing director role. We've also seen that is it King, James King, is set to join Arsenal as a director of football operations. He actually worked at Arsenal previously and has rejoined the club since. It is still obviously very unknown about why this situation is happening and why this goes down. We're expected to get more news on this in the days to come, in the hours to come, I imagine, as well. But we'll be getting some thoughts. In fact, I'm more than happy to open up the phone lines this morning because it is quite a considerable piece of news that has dropped. And if fans have got their views on this, I'd like to hear it. I had a whole show planned around kind of like what Arsenal can do to solve their problems. But I think you can understand that this kind of supersedes this. Just to kind of give you a roundup of the work that's been done at Arsenal Football Club since, of course, Edu came in. He joined the club, as we know, in 2019 alongside Raul Sanllehi as a technical director then. Raul Sanllehi left during the pandemic as head of football, and then Edu stayed in the role of technical director until he was promoted to sporting director, which only happened, a couple of years ago. It wasn't a move that was kind of happened years and years and years ago. We're talking about just less than 2 years ago, November 18th, 2022. Chief executive at the time, Vinay Venkatesham, said, "We are delighted that Edu is recommitting his future to the club and that he so clearly loves after making such a positive and critical contribution to our progress in this time so far. Edu's promotion formalizes his already growing influence over the academy operations, and we look forward to Per and Edu working together to strengthen the reintegration between the men's first team and academy further." Now, there was a story 3 months ago, you may remember this, back in February, that Nottingham Forest owner supposedly wanted to bring Edu to the City ground. This, of course, was a story suggesting that Evangelos Marinakis, who is the owner of Nottingham Forest, and according to Brazilian outlet UOL, they reported back in February that supposedly Nottingham Forest were keen on bringing him to the club. But yeah, very interesting indeed. Very, very interesting story. I'm going to throw a link to you all in the chat box now for those that would like to have their say on this. I'm going to put it in the description as well. I'm going to put it into the chat box now as well. 2 seconds here. So if you would like to join, of course, you must be over the age of 18 and you must have a webcam is necessary to join. But there is your link if you want to come and have your say. 2 phone-ins in 2 days. Really, really getting this at the moment. But it seems very out of the blue. But yes, just quickly kind of on the work that's been done since Edu arrived at the club, which has been quite significant, of course, as you can imagine, because Arsenal have spent a lot of money. They've brought in a lot of players. In 2019, that summer, he didn't really manage to get his feet under the table by that point, but that's the summer that Nicolas Pepe and William Saliba and Kieran Tierney and David Luiz were signed. It was 2020 where he really started to get more of an influence on things, helping to sign Gabriel Magalhaes, helping to sign Thomas Partey, bringing Martin Odegaard in the January of that season on loan. In 2021-22, we signed Ben White, Odegaard on a permanent deal, Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, Lokonga, Tavares for a combined 150 million, around that figure. And then the following year was the Fabio Vieira, Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko window, which then saw in January Arsenal go out to land Trossard, Kivior and Jorginho. In 2023, Arsenal signed Declan Rice, of course, famously beating Manchester City to the West Ham midfielder's signature for a £105 million record fee. Kai Havertz joined for 65 million. Jurrien Timber joined for a very impressive figure under 40 million pounds. And David Raya infamously joining on loan in what was deemed as a very highly thought of move for Arsenal, which was then becoming permanent the following year, this summer, where David Raya signed with Mikel Merino joining as well, and Ricardo Calafiori also joining the club in what was described by many clubs as a very difficult window that saw Manchester City land Ilkay Gundogan and Savinho, very small window for them, and Liverpool only signing Chiesa, of course, as well. So it's very interesting. We don't know the details, but I do want to get some people's thoughts on this. Bobby is our first caller. Let's get him onto the show. How are you doing, Bobby? Good morning, mate. How are you?
Hi, Tom. Very well. And yourself?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Give me your raw reaction to this story.
Really upset, to be honest. Obviously, I could see a lot of synergies between what Mikel was building with Edu. In terms of as well, beyond that, you could see, I believe that the Cronkies, especially Josh, had a lot of a really good relationship with Edu as well. So I know you mentioned there could have been a more of a senior position within the Forest group in terms of their collective of clubs, but realistically, how has this happened? Because it definitely, from what it appears as though there wasn't any disharmony. So, and I don't, no matter what I think, I can't see how Forest is anywhere. I know it's a collective of clubs, but I don't see how that's on par with Arsenal Football Club. And I don't want, at a time like this, obviously we've just bounced off just an odd result, so it's a really odd time to announce it, and I don't think it's got any backdrop to anything else. I don't think this has got anything to do with the club's slight slump, and I don't want people sort of speculating, thinking
no, I don't think it does either. No, I think that's probably fair. Oh, we lost Bobby. Oh, his connection's gone. We'll see if we can get Bobby back in a second. Of course, if you would like to join the call and get your thoughts as well, all you need to do is jump into the chat box. There is a link for you to go and do that in the live chat that is available. You can also go and refresh the page. Bobby, have we got you back? Are we back? Oh, no. Yes, maybe. No, not yet. It's one of those mornings. I understand, obviously, it's very early in the morning here in the UK. It's 8 a.m. currently, as we do every single morning. If you're new to the show, if you're joining us for the first time, if this is a channel that you've just found because of this story, and I imagine the timing is kind of crazy considering we do this every single day. Let's get some reaction from the chat box as well. Prog says Edu would openly talk about the stresses of the job. First instinct is it perhaps could be for personal reasons. Of course, we don't know anything at this stage about the reasoning. FFR says this is good. Edu and Arteta, both rookies learning the ropes. If Arteta wins nothing this season, it should be gone too. Football is about winning and not process and vibes. course, that's not accurate about Edu. Certainly not a rookie. Edu has been working not just at Arsenal, but previously did a big job with the Brazilian national side before joining Arsenal as well. So not entirely accurate, that comment. PTM joins us next. How you doing, mate? You good, you well?
I'm good. And yourself, bro?
Yeah, very good, mate. Thank you. Give me your reaction to this story.
You know what, man? I think Edu he's done a half decent job with what he's been busy with at Arsenal. And to be honest, I don't think the way things have been going is any reason for him to quit. So I probably think he's leaving for greener pastures, man. Someone's offered him a big paycheck, and he's like, yeah, he's got a cut. So yeah, man, I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal will be paying him a hell of a lot. He will be a hell of a lot that he'll be getting paid still at Arsenal. So if it is for a new job, that would be very, very interesting. Of course, we can only speculate at the moment about what that is. We don't know what his next step will be. You said he's done a half decent job. Why for you is it only half decent?
Man, I feel like if you're a technical director, he should actually be convincing Arteta to get proper players, man. Like, first of all, get a decent backup to Havertz, or an upgrade on Havertz, man, or better midfield, like better backup to Odegaard, better backup to Zinchenko. I feel even with the Timber situation, he should have done something in January last year. So I kind of feel like he's the one who should be convincing Arteta to make these signings, man. Like, at this point, it's hell for leather. You go for broke in trying to win the title. And I feel like I'm not gonna say he's to blame for Arsenal not winning the title, but I kind of feel he has a hand in that.
PC, I'm only going to let you go because there's a lot of noise going on in the background, as I think you can hear. So, but thank you for your point. I really appreciate it. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
So interesting thoughts there. I mean, Edu being described by PTM there as doing a, quote, half-decent job. That's quite harsh. You think about the sub players that we have signed under this. You've seen this club rise from being in the doldrums of 8th and 5th and out of Champions League football for many years. Even when we were in Champions League football, we had a team that was not competing for titles. And since 2019, Arsenal have, of course, gone and built a side that have now managed to challenge the most successful side, arguably, in Premier League history alongside Manchester United and Sir Alex Ferguson. Elliot is up next. How you doing, mate? You good, you well?
I'm well, sir. How are you?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Very good. Surprised this morning, but tell me how
you got me out of my slumber for this one there, Tom. I tell you what. Got me woken up for this one. Yeah, I'm very surprised at this one. I'm very surprised that Edu is leaving. I don't know where he's going. Hopefully not to Nottingham Forest, to be fair. But
that would be horrendous if that was true. By the way, that is a report from several months ago by a Brazilian link, but it was obviously one that did kind of raise eyebrows when it emerged at the time. There you go.
Yeah, I would be stunned if he went to Nottingham Forest to. Yeah, even though they've had a pretty good season, it would be, I would say, a level down to go to Nottingham Forest. Arsenal's one of the biggest sides in the world, to be fair, and to go, I think it would be a step down for him to go to a Nottingham Forest position. But let's be fair and frank about this. I mean, Edu's helped us to our resurgence, but the fact of the matter is we have got to criticize him for the fact that he did not use his Brazilian contacts to great effect. Where has been the Brazilian talent that he should have been tapped into coming to Arsenal? And I don't think he brought any great Brazilian.
Didn't work out. Martinelli wasn't Edu. Martinelli was Francis.
That wasn't Edu, exactly.
Pablo Mari, you could argue maybe, potentially. Obviously, there was some links there, but you're right. I mean, if this is the end of Edu's tenure, and if we were judging it based upon what his work was in South America, very little has come through to Arsenal in that sense.
Absolutely, and I think he has to be held to account for that. If you were technical director of the Brazilian national team, you should have context of the wazoo in terms and helping them bring them to Arsenal. But he never did that. We never seen any top stars. We never seen any top talent come to the side, and he has to be held negligible for that. Now, again, this is not, in terms of talent that could come in. I think even though Edu has done a really good job, I think there is a good allowable pool of talent to come in and be technical director here. If not, I don't think we should be giving Arteta too big of a profile right now in terms of being technical director and manager. That would I think put too much on his plate right now. But I think we should bring in I think there'd be a few people who would love to be technical director here at Arsenal and really take us over the hump in terms of bringing in talent. And I think we should be very bullish at this time, and I think this is we have pride of place in that sequence. But again, I think there should be certainly a division of. I mean, he should be working hand in hand with Arteta, but he should be, challenging him, really pushing him to higher heights and greater expectations. And even though Arteta and Edu were a good team, but I think there were, as I said, there were issues that Edu did bring to the fore, and he could have been improved upon. But it certainly is a shock. It's not as if Edu wasn't doing a bad job, but he could have done more. And if we think about it, if we are, put things in the grand scale, can we do better with Edu? Yeah, we could. Actually, to be fair, even though he is
better in Windows, yes, I think there are. Windows have not been perfect, that's for sure. I think obviously since we've been in a little bit of a slump form-wise, there's been a bit of an emphasis looking on transfers over the summer, as talked about. This was not an easy window for any of the big clubs. That's why we didn't see much business go down for any of them, really. But what I think, and I've put a poll, by the way, in the chat for people to vote on, just in terms of giving a rating out of 10 as to Edu's job at the club. That obviously you need to consider the players, not just players that have signed, but you have to think about the work that's been done with contracts. Arsenal have renewed Bukayo Saka's contract twice under Edu, Martinelli's contract twice under Edu. We've obviously brought players like Balogun and signed him up to a new deal and sold him for a record academy fee as well, along with other players as well that have made money. Think about the summer, the improvement in the sales record there, 100 million-ish been able to be brought in terms of money. Other players, Odegaard, Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba, all signing contracts as well under Edu's tenure at the club too. So that, I think, is you've got to balance kind of everything to give you a rating. And I know there's going to be some recency bias based upon the form and the last window that comes into that. But give us your scores. I'd probably give him an 8 personally. But where would you be, Elliot?
I would have to knock that down to a 7 simply because he didn't bring in Brazilian talent. I think that's a huge lacuna in his resume. That if you're the technical director of the Brazilian side, you should be bringing in Brazilian talent. We never did that here. But one thing he did do is, I think he was quite good at re-signing talent. I think re-signing our base talent. I don't know how integral he was in terms of signing players. But I think Arteta with his, I think was more instrumental in terms of bringing in players than anyone else. Because again, if you're going to bring, people come for the coach, they don't come for the technical director. I would say a 7. A 7 would be a good idea for me. Which that means there's a lot more room for improvement here. Yes, it is a bit of a blow to lose Edu, but can we do better? Then I say yes. I think we can.
Elliot, thank you so much for your time, mate. Always a pleasure to chat.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, mate. Speak soon. Lovely stuff. Next up with the camera on is Benny. Let's get Benny on. How you doing, mate? You good, Joel?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can indeed. How you doing?
I'm good. I tried to actually catch your show on, I think, yesterday. I slept on time. I was really in my feelings yesterday, and I was like, I need to get to Tom. And then I found out you already had the live. I was like, damn it. Well, so concerning this news, can you hear me properly? Because I'm in a new setup.
Yeah, I can hear you, mate. You're a little bit echoey, but you're all right. You're all good.
So concerning this is very surprising news, and I'm really interested to see the next steps of what happens. This will kind of give us a really good direction into what happened, because I'm sure everybody is going to be like, keep it on the down low. But I think with the either the next appointment or the next steps the clubs will take will give us an insight to actually whether he was fired and he kind of fell on his sword.
Well, the report obviously is that it's his decision. That we should stress that at this point. The only information we have is that it's his decision to leave.
This is like a kind of politically correct thing because
we have to take it at face value.
Because he's I'm sure because of the time he served in these kind of like really big positions, I don't think the board will be like, oh, they could say, okay, Edu, we might fire you, but maybe you could just kind of let yourself go. If that makes sense. So for me, I don't know till we see the next steps. That's what I'm going to kind of.
What would you rate his job out of 10 that he's done over the 5 years?
I'm going to give him. I think I'm going to give him, like, I'm staying with the chat. I'll give him a 6 and a 7. Okay. And I kind of pulled in, especially from the last transfer. I was not last transfer window. I was not very happy, especially since we knew what we needed to challenge for the title. And I really wasn't impressed with the window in terms of so I know it's recency bias and it's the last transfer window, but if you look at the signings we were kind of pulled in to get, so especially Sesko and who's the other kid from Atletico? Nico Williams.
Yeah.
We were linked
from Athletic Club,
From Atletico. We were linked with them like heavily, and it was Edu's job to try and bring those guys in, and it didn't. It obviously they stayed, and it's like no, but this is his job to try and get us this kind of talent because at the moment we need those kind of profiles now in our squad right now. Also the fact, and I'm looking to Tavares. We know Tavares. Remember Tavares?
I remember him. The guy with the joint most assists in Serie A right now.
Exactly. And we sold him for only how much?
We sold him for, I think it's a loan with an obligation to buy at around 5. It's about, we'll make back basically what we paid for him. Yeah.
And I heard like something about Napoli saying they wouldn't give him up for 70 million. Because
at the moment, he's been very good. I mean, in all fairness, for us, he was dreadful.
We're not, to be fair, Tom, we're not behind the scenes, we're not the coach, we're not in those positions, but it's Edu's job, it's Arteta's job to kind of see these kind of players and see that actually there's still talent there. We don't need to let him go for that amount, because I'm sure a lot of fans will be pissed if Napoli go on to sell him for 60 and the next season we'll be like, what the hell? What's going on? Same with I was going to say Nelson. And then the fact that, and I know we did really well with the Sterling deal because Chelsea are paying half of his wages, but for going from Nico Williams all the way to Sterling and seeing the product Sterling is delivering, it's for what we want to do in the title race. It's not good enough for me. I'm sure for most Arsenal fans, it's not good enough. So I didn't want to come on here and pull out faults because Edu has been.
You don't need to. He's going. There's no torches needed, mate. He's going.
Edu has been good, but I feel when you're challenging and trying to get this juggernaut that is City, we need superb. We need.
Oh, Benny, I'll give. Let me come back at your one point, and then we'll have one more answer, and I'll move on to the next caller just on this. Because I said I think for me it's an 8. The reason for me it's an 8 is because I think that people obviously have got a bit of amount of recency bias from this summer at the moment, obviously, which was disappointing. I gave it a 6 out of 10 for this window, especially when we decided to let go of Reece Nelson as well, even though I'm told that he did push to leave, like Smith Rowe, like Ramsdale, they all pushed to move on. I feel as though people have got really short memories, in my opinion, because prior to his arrival, the recruitment at Arsenal from 2010 onwards, even before 2010, we were going backwards with our squad recruitment. We were going backwards with the players that we were signing. Even like you think about Aubameyang, who we brought in prior with Sven Mislintat at the club with his links to Borussia Dortmund. We brought in Aubameyang for 60 million quid less than 6 months after we'd spent 45 million pounds on Alexandre Lacazette. That type of squad building again, is questionable as to why Arsenal invested that type of money when you were losing Alexis Sanchez. You go back a little bit further than that. Players like Mustafi, of course, that we spent huge amounts of money on. Players like Lucas Perez that we spent 17 to 20 million pounds on. Like, the squad was going backwards, continually regressing. We were losing our best players under Arsene Wenger, of course, because we know the restrictions of the stadium, etc., and so on. But still, even though we maintained a Champions League position in a far less competitive Premier League at the time, we kept on going backwards, and eventually under Wenger, we fell out of the Champions League and finished 5th, and then we go into 6th. And then obviously we brought in Unai Emery, who still couldn't get us back into the Champions League. We spent £72 million on Nicolas Pepe, of course, as well, when Emery wanted, as we know, Wilfried Zaha. We spent huge sums of money on these players. And Edu came in 2019, took over the job in 2020 as a as a technical director from Raul Senya, who left in 2020, gets that sporting director role in 2022. This is a guy that has been here while Arsenal have spent more than they ever spent in the past on players that have taken them forwards, but also players that have cost us, relative to big deals, like a decent amount of money. You think about Martin Odegaard for £32 million, the player that he, of course, has become since then. You think about even the deals to beat Manchester City, to Declan Rice. Kai Havertz, obviously very much questioned when he arrived, but I think has proven the majority of his doubters wrong at this point. You think about the depth of Gabriel, £25 million we paid for him. You think about David Raya and Aaron Ramsdale, back-to-back goalkeepers of the year, according to PFA, signed for less than half the price of what Chelsea paid for Kepa Arrizabalaga as an example. Like, I just think that people are going a little bit over the top. I mean, Timber even recently came in for less than £40 million. Calafiori's been signed for a deal that's 42, but I'm told that his upfront fee is considerably lower than that as well. You think about that January window, we signed Leandro Trossard for £21 million up front with £6 million in add-ons, Jorginho for 10. Kivior, yes, has been a bit of a hit and miss, but I think he's had good moments and it only cost us less than £20 million as well. I'm really struggling with obviously you're always going to get some crazy fans that are giving 1s, 2s and 3s. But I think people have significantly underestimated the job that's seen this team become a side that now competes for the title in the last 2 years, and we hope we turn things around again this season and do it for a third time.
I hear you, Tom, and you made like some really, really good points. I think most hardcore, most normal fans, I would say normal, because
we went from hardcore to normal very quickly.
You do have like the Twitter like brigade, but I would say most fans would say Edu has done a very good job. But I would the only question I would kind of think in my head, especially because you did give the instant that it was a very poor transfer window, right? At the start, you said it was
underwhelming.
Underwhelming for most teams, right? But
for most teams,
somehow City pull out Savinho.
Well, we know how they pulled out Savinho.
Yeah,
he's part of the City football group.
They still pulled him out. They pull out these players. And I feel we are kind of still, they're still big broing us at this moment in time. And there's still, I'm sure you feel it, there's still a level for Arsenal to go. And maybe it's not the fact that we need good. We need spectacular. It's this, I think as fans, we have to still ask these questions, especially like Sunday.
Look, I don't want to be misconstrued as saying that I think the guy's been perfect. And look, I really hope that if he's leaving, we bring in someone that's going to be better and take us forwards and do the things that he wasn't doing very well much better. That's the hope. That's got to be the hope.
Exactly. We need to still continually kind of push the boundaries on how far we can go as a football club, because it seems like Champions League, honestly, I don't think we're winning it this season, because the quality is still not there, unfortunately. And I would love us to say we're going to go to the final, we're going to win it. Same thing with the Premiership, but it just seems like we still have some way to go. And if this is the way where somebody else comes in and even pushes us even more, I'm be happy for it. So this is why now I will probably wait for the kind of clubs next steps before I overreact and say, okay, if they bring in some like shitty manager from like Conference League, then I'm like, okay, yeah, we're fucked. But I'm sure in the direction we've been heading these recent years, the Cronkies have made better decisions. So they've given what do you call it? They gave the transfer budget to Arteta and Edu to bring in the players. Now I need to kind of trust that they are going to bring in hopefully a better hand.
We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see, Benny, because that's the next big job. You know, we can all have our opinions about whether or not Eddie's done a good job. Doesn't matter. The thing that matters is what happens next. Benny, thank you so much for your time, mate. I really appreciate it. Thank you, mate. Lovely stuff. Anthony's up next. Oh, I've got quite a few people calling, so we may have quicker calls now, so we can get more views of people that are on the show. Anthony, how you doing, mate? You good, Joel? But back-to-back days we've been chatting now, mate.
Yeah, I know. Just a quick one before I go to it this morning. Am I surprised? No.
You're really not surprised? I'm genuinely shocked.
No, I'm not
genuinely.
Surprised. No, I'll give Edu credit for what he's done in regards to getting rid of the deadwoods in terms of the transfers that he's brought in. Obviously, there's been, questionable that, where's the Brazilian contacts? If you look at Real Madrid, who they got in terms of Brazilian players, I thought that's one area that Edu lacked in terms of Marquinhos. When we bought him for 3 million and we didn't need to, we could have got him on the free, but we wanted to keep that relationship going with them. In regards to certain players like the Mudryk deal, everyone was up in arms with that because, yes, Eddie was flying out to go close the deal. What happened? Chelsea pipped us to it. There's been questionable deals that I think Arteta wanted the first targets, but Edu's never delivered. And, I know people are going to be Twitter, they're going to be rejoicing, now Eddie's going, one Arteta. Trust me, today is going to be a fan fest on Twitter.
Yeah, it's going to be very toxic. Very toxic.
It's going to be a fan fest on Twitter going forward with this, but it's a bit sweet, that he's going.
Yeah,
but at the same time, we need someone who can, when the manager says, he wants plan A, go give me that plan A. If we want to challenge for the title, we need that. We need those top quality players. This transfer window was abysmal. I gave it a 3 out of 10. Simple, because we needed a striker. After the Champions League game when we lost to Bayern Munich.
Who would you have signed?
I would have signed Sesko. I would have gone for Gyökeres. Look at him now. Look what Gyökeres is doing now.
The issue with that, though, Anthony, is did you hear Arteta's answer when he was asked about Declan Rice level signings in the summer? Did you hear his answer when he was asked about that?
Yeah, I know that we're not.
That it wasn't possible. It was to not expect it.
I get that, but at the same time, if you want to improve against Man City, because this is looking like a Farmers League. If City wins it this season, this is a Farmers League. With the amount of stuff that City's got going on behind closed doors. If they win another title, this is a Farmers League. No one can't touch them.
I hate that phrase, but I know what you're saying.
I know, but I'm generally being serious. You have to look at it that if we want to, it's been over 22 years now that we haven't won a title. That's not good enough. We've challenged for the past 2 years. Hopefully this can be 3, but we need that level of injection going forward. So I hope that we promote someone else and it's not within, because that would be disastrous if he goes and then we promote someone from in. We need to get someone who can identify top quality talent. When the manager says, I want this player, boom, go give me that player. Hook or by crook, get those players in, because the transfer window was appalling. Everyone, when after Sesko we didn't get him, we should have got someone else, but it didn't happen. Obviously, there's talk about getting another winger in January, that we need a winger who can score, because I don't think Sterling is pulling up trees.
No,
from Nico Williams to Sterling, there's levels. There's absolutely levels above. So I just wish him all the best, in his future endeavours going forward. But Tom, I've got to run because.
No worries, Anthony. I appreciate you calling in, mate. I really do. Thank you, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers, pal. Lovely stuff. It seems that so far, the overall feeling has been one of, well, in some ways, people seem glad overall. I mean, I say that. I'm looking at the poll at the moment that I put in. What 6% of you say his job was a 1 to 3 out of 10. 17% of you say 4 to 5 out of 10. 44% say 67, and 34% of you say he'd done an 8 out of 10. 8 to 10 out of 10 job. Simon's up next. Simon, how are you, mate? How you doing? You good, you well?
Not too bad, Tom. Good morning.
Good morning, mate. Give me a reaction to this news.
Okay, where do I start? First of all, let's start with the positives, okay? Timber, Odegaard, fantastic purchases. The prices we got them for, unbelievable. Eddie and Balogun, if that's his job, getting people at the door, then did well to secure some money there. The contracts, I'm not having it, Tom. I don't think he's the contract guy. Garlic is a contract guy. He was the contract guy before he came to us. We brought him in to be the contract guy. So I'm putting down the Saka and the Martinelli contracts to Richard
I can't
Garlic.
tell you that it's factual that he works on contracts. He's with Garlic. Garlic does help, but they do work together.
We'll put that on the positive side then.
Okay.
There's some more positives. Let's see if he can renew Saliba, Gabriel, Rice,
he's already done
Saka,
those two.
and everybody else again. Let's see if he can do it again. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like that he's been here, 6 years, 7 years, maybe? Just like Zinni and Jesus, he's got us to where we are fantastically well. I am very appreciative of Edu's efforts to date, but he's run his course to get us to compete with Madrid and with Man City. We need, just like we need to replace Zinni and Jesus, we need to replace Edu to get us to that next level. I think he's done all he's done. He's took us as far as he can take us with his limited expertise and his limited experience. Because let's be honest, he didn't have this amount of experience.
Well, he had a lot more than I think people are giving him credit for. He was. I mean, do you know what jobs he did before Arsenal?
So let's take his jobs for example. So he was the technical director at the Brazilian FA, correct?
General coordinator of the Brazilian national team, and the job before that.
So just let's take that one for example. I think he was at Corinthians before that. Is that right?
Yeah, he was at Corinthians for 5 years as the director of football.
Okay, so them experiences. So when we, as a fan, when he came in, I thought fantastic. General coordinator of the Brazilian FA. We're going to have Endrick. We're going to have all of these Brazilian stars come to Arsenal. And we're going to have first dibs on them. Who did we get? Marquinhos, flop. I heard you say Pablo Mari. That's not something to be
No, I'm not saying it is. No, not at all.
That was definitely another flop. What else? Don't worry, I'll wait. Wait. Because there's been nothing else.
This is definitely something he's worthy of criticism of, is that the work we've done in South American football, despite there being a so-called push to have greater influence there, maybe it's bedrock or foundations that we're only going to benefit from later on down the line. But the reality is what he's done during the 5 years with his links to South America has been
a flop.
Has been a flop. I think that would be a fair assessment. Yeah.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate that. What do you think about his? He goes on about his first choice, his second choice, his third choice. 180 pages on every player.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just reel off some names and tell me if they were first choice, and then consequently what happened. Because I feel as a fan that these were first choice put out by the media.
Okay.
Might not be right. Might be wrong. So we went for Sesko. We didn't convince him to come this year.
Yeah.
Give or take. We don't know all the reasons. We didn't go out and get another striker, so maybe he's coming.
Do you want another reasons with Sesko?
One sec. Let me just reel off these guys first. Mudryk.
I need to write these down. Hold on.
There's not many. There's only 4 players, Tom. You'll remember them.
You underestimate how bad my memory is, but go on. Keep going.
So Sesko, we didn't get Sesko. Mudryk, we seemed to put a lot of effort into Mudryk, and we didn't get Mudryk, and we ended up with Trossard. Caicedo at the time, there was lots of talk of us getting him and Rice in the summer, him in the January and Rice in the summer. Failed to convince Caicedo to come for whatever reason. Ended up with Rice, but there was talk and there was reports that we were getting both.
Keep going.
And then finally this summer, Nico Williams, and we ended up with Raheem Sterling. They're just 4 examples where I feel that he failed to convince people to come. Okay. I just don't think he has the knock or the pull or whatever you want to call it to convince elite level talent to come to our amazing club, which should be pretty easily to do.
Yeah.
What do you think there?
So if Arsenal had have agreed a fee with Leipzig, do you think Sesko would have joined Arsenal?
Yeah.
If we'd agreed a fee with Shakhtar, do you think Mudryk would have joined Arsenal?
Yes.
If we'd have agreed a fee with Brighton, do you think Caicedo would have joined Arsenal?
With the Mudryk one, didn't we match Chelsea's fee?
No, Chelsea ended up blowing us out of the water in the end.
Okay, so we're investing all of this money into these, all of this effort into signing these players and not getting it done and not getting it over the line.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a negotiation or a timing thing on Edu's part to in his failure of getting these players. The thing is that we have put these guys as our number one target, and for whatever reason, we have failed. We've invested time in getting these targets and then failed to get them to our club. And I know this happens every day at every club, that people don't get their first choice. But I think that as today stands, with the 0 success that we've had, okay, I think he might have been here for the FA Cup. Okay, let's give him the FA Cup. But his legacy is one of failure, average. 5 out of 10
harsh,
at best.
I think to say that his average is failure when ultimately he's been responsible for the squad building that's taken Arsenal out of this horrendous purgatory state that we found ourselves in of never being a side that competed for titles for 20 odd years nearly. And it's his work with Edu and of course those behind the scenes and the owners that have invested to build a squad that now is in a position where we're sitting here this season after 9 games, 10 games. We've lost 2 away games this season. We've lost 2 games all season so far. And we're saying title's done. Title's over. Season's finished. That's our expectations. And those expectations have risen because of the work that's been done to build a squad that is now in our minds. Because if you don't think Edu's built a squad that's good enough to compete with Man City, why on earth are people's expectations that Arteta has got to win the league? Otherwise, he needs to be sacked. I'm not saying that's you, but I'm saying that's a lot of people. There's a contradiction there somewhere. People can't.
I don't think Arteta needs to be sacked, and I also think that Arteta takes more credit for the signings and the squad building than Edu. I feel like the fabric of the squad are people that Arteta wanted in the squad, and Edu went and did the legwork along with the recruitment team to get them people. I think that Edu failed Arteta with those first choice signings, and we've had to come down in standard. I think that's been evident in the 4 names that I just gave. So I think he's failed in executing what we really wanted. In terms of building the squad, let's talk about the sales and the movement of players. How many players have we had to pay off? So Edu's effectively not doing his job there. He's just going, here's some money, leave the door, go over to that club. How many sales have he secured to build this squad? It's easy enough. Most people, Tommy and you, could probably say to Aubameyang or to Barcelona, do you want Aubameyang for free? Yeah, okay, you can sell him in 12 months' time for 12 million quid. There's free asset there for you. Go and have that. Do you know what I mean? We give him credit of building this amazing squad, and it is an amazing squad. But I feel like when most people come in, the first person that they give credit to in their first interviews is Arteta. They come because of Arteta, because of what Arteta did. And Edu is more of an afterthought, as an afterthought, I think. But
I think the sales side of things is definitely an area where you point at and go, that is something that Edu needed to improve. And to be fair, in the summer, that we did see an improvement in that perspective. Everyone was laughing at the fact that we weren't going to get 30 million for Eddie Nketiah when Nottingham Forest pulled out. Everyone was ready to pull the swords out and pull the torches out for Edu when we didn't get 30 million from Forest. And then lo and behold, he's vindicated in that by going and getting that money from Crystal Palace for Eddie Nketiah.
Yeah, 100%, Tom. My last point is on the summer, to be fair. And I just feel that as a technical director, he's left us in a massively vulnerable position in attacking midfield. Letting Vieira, Smith-Rowe go and Reece Nelson has left our attacking pod massively short, and to bring in Raheem Sterling as a massive gamble to kind of underpin that in the dying hours of the transfer window was a huge failure, in my opinion. Another player over the season, But to let Smith Rowe go, and I know we got Nwaneri to come in there, but Arteta don't seem to want to put him in right now. He's had ample opportunity to give him the minutes that he should be giving him to build him up to be a squad player and to be a better squad player, and time will tell with that one. But I think Edu, as a technical director, made technical decisions that has left us seriously short in the attacking pod, going through a very busy season with extra games in the Champions League, etc. There's some serious work needs to be done to kind of save our season in January, especially in the attacking pod, I think.
Do you think we would have won any of the games that we didn't win if Vieira was there this season?
I think we massively lack creativity against Newcastle, against Bournemouth, against Liverpool. We didn't really create a lot. So I think that having somebody, and who could see Odegaard as being an ever present, who could see that he was going to be out for 2.5 months. But
no one could tell.
As the technical director,
Arsenal,
as a technical director, they have to consider all possibilities.
I think it's more. I actually point the finger more at Arteta for the attacking midfield mismanagement, because I personally feel that Ethan Nwaneri should have been given more minutes. I think he should have started against Southampton. I think he should have started against Shakhtar Donetsk, and I think we would have been better prepared, therefore, to use Ethan Nwaneri in these games. I get the argument about attacking midfield. Again, I do point out that this summer it's not as straightforward as what people assume, and you can look at the business done by the other teams at our level and the lack of business that they have done to showcase that the talent moving around at the elite level simply was not there. Smith Rowe leaving was his decision. He asked to leave the club. To my understanding, it was his push to leave Arsenal. He wanted a new challenge, and Arsenal got a very good fee and a very good sell-on clause for him on top of that as well. We have Reece Nelson asking to get a new challenge to get minutes because they're not happening with Arsenal. Fabio Vieira, the same. Wanted to get more minutes. He's left his best mate in Gabriel Martinelli,
I appreciate that these guys are all asking for these things, but these guys are under contract and paid very well. If they are a key part of our technical ability to execute our ambitions and KPIs for the season, they should be told it's not possible for you to leave.
None of those players, though, have been responsible for those 2 years that we competed for the title. None of them. None of them had a significant impact on either of those 2 seasons.
But in them 2 seasons, Odegaard wasn't out for 2 months.
No, he wasn't. But what I'm saying is that I point the finger this season more at Arteta for not bringing through that player like Nwaneri.
I agree with that. Arteta should be giving Nwaneri more minutes to build up his experience moving forwards. But at the same time, it's a technical decision to think we're going to let these guys go without a replacement, or if Nwaneri was the replacement, then is part of the coaching KPIs to kind of give him the minutes to build him up to be able. And I think he is. I think he is an able replacement for Odegaard. So why isn't he trusting him? Why isn't he pulling him in there? Why is he playing a really pragmatic midfield? When we clearly lack creativity. You look at our XG on the weekend was 0.00. There's nothing created.
On target.
And we're relying on Havertz to drop into midfield a little bit more with Odegaard not there. And then we've got no striker, so we're back to the Jesus problem. 1 goal since January of not having a striker playing centre forward and having all these midfielders. So there's some technical issues there, but I feel that at the end of the day, Edu's gone. I wish him well. I thank him for his services to Arsenal Football Club. I just think we can now go out and recruit somebody who will have who could take us, and there's no guarantee of this, who could take us to that elite level, taking us over the line in the Champions League and the Premier League and competing with Man City, which Edu has done to a sense, but again, there's more work
to a sense. He has done that. Don't hold back on that side of things. I agree with you that in the shortcomings in certain areas, I think there are things that I do agree with you. But, a previous caller said Edu's done a half-decent job. You said, in a sense, he's taken us. That's what frustrates me. It's fans' reluctance to say it as it is. Edu has taken us, has built a squad that's competed for 2 titles and has put us into a position where we're disappointed of where we are right now. That's just the facts. I
agree with that. I feel the same with Zinchenko and Jesus. They done what they needed to do when they left Man City. They took us to the level to compete with them, but now we need to replace them to go beyond. I've just feel my overall feeling is that he's took us as far as he can. He's gained a lot of experience with us. I wish him the best. I thank him for his services, and now is in time to see who comes and replaces him to kind of do that job moving forward.
Job to do. Massive job, and the people making those decisions behind the scenes have got to get this spot on. And I couldn't give
Who's
you a
your
name
call?
right now. I genuinely, I couldn't give you a name, mate.
Yeah.
I couldn't give you a name as to who this person is that's going to come in. You know, I'm not the one that was just pushing for Edu to leave at this point. You know, so it'd be interesting to see what people who really wanted Edu to go, who they would look to bring in to be his replacement.
I've always liked Monchi, but
yeah, he's at Villa, isn't he? So he's not going.
Yeah, I predict that Arteta has a big pull in this and is somebody that he has a big relationship with.
Yeah, without a question, Arteta will be heavily involved in the process.
Yeah,
they won't be a sporting director either. I'd be surprised if they were. I think they'll come in as a technical director initially. Even if they find someone. By the way, we don't know when Edu's leaving at the moment. We know that he's leaving. We don't know if he's leaving with immediate effect. We don't know if he's leaving at the end of the season. We don't know anything.
Do you feel, I feel this might be a bit of an outside the chance as well, is that Mertesacker comes and steps up?
I'd be surprised. I'd be very surprised.
They've got a record of promoting from within.
Oh, they do, but it's a different job, isn't it? Like he's head of the academy. Like it's not the recruitment side of things. He's not looking at building in transfers. Edu actually is a big part of helping the academy sign younger players for the under-21s and under-18. So I see where you're coming from with the whole promotion from within, but I'd be very, very surprised. They may promote someone from within, you know, that's also been working. You know, you've got Jason Ato, of course, who's been working closely with Edu in this field. Maybe it's him who gets a promotion, but I think fans would want to see some external integration of someone coming in, someone with new ideas, someone that's got their own ideas, someone who can try and take Arsenal to that next step. And I hope that's what they do. I think promoting from within is it really going to push the needle? I'm not sure. I don't know enough about what Ato would do technically if indeed it was him that got the job. But I think that Arsenal need to be obviously very careful, and sometimes fans need to be a bit careful of what they wish for, because it's not always a sense of just because you replace them, the next person's going to be better. We've got to hope that they are, and I really hope that they are, because if they're not, we've got a real problem. But Simon, thank you so much for coming on. I respect your view, and I respect the way you put your points across, so thank you, and I thought it was a really good chat. So thank you, mate.
Nice one, Simon. Enjoy your day, mate.
You too, pal. Thank you. Lovely stuff. Lai is up next. Let's get Lai on the show. How you doing, mate? You good? You well? Take yourself on mute so I can hear you. And give me a reaction to this story.
Can you hear me?
Yes, mate.
Yes. So my reaction is, well, I guess we'll move on to the next. I have a little bit of issues with some of the criticism that Ed has gotten, you know, from the previous callers. And the reason is simple. Do we even know the scope of his responsibilities? Do we know the scope of his role and responsibilities, right? Like they keep talking about he didn't sign this person, he didn't sign that person, he didn't bring people in from Brazil. Do we know that the club has that mandate for him to go bring people in from South America? If he didn't, if that wasn't part of his job, or if the club has just said, you know what, we just want to look around Europe, what is he supposed to do? Like, so we are judging people without really knowing what their role is on an individual level. Now, as a collective, I think we can say, based on the output or the success, however we want to define that, we can say we can grade him. So for me, even for the good signings, was he, you know, what level of responsibility does he have? I know that I've seen interviews of him coming out before, and he never really says he's the one responsible. He always talks about how the team, like, you know, it's a team of folks that are responsible for making these signings and for making these decisions. So if I'm going to take him at face value, he is not a singular person that is responsible for, you know, for X, Y, or Z, if we're going to call it a failure or not. So now he has decided to leave. Whatever the reasons are, I mean, we can extrapolate. You know, if it was truly his decision to do that, perhaps he may feel like he's burned out. Quite frankly, being this particular job that he has is a thankless job at Arsenal, if I'm being honest with you. Like,
how much out of 10 would you give Edu's job? Sorry.
No. So how much time will I give him?
No, sorry. How out of 10, what would you rate Edu's work at Arsenal?
I mean, for all of them as a collective, I'll probably give them a 7. You know, they've taken us from a place where we were terrible, we were bad, to now a place where we're competing. Now, and this goes for Arteta as well. It could be that this is the time to kind of like, you know, to cycle through them and say, hey, you know what, you've taken us here, we need a new team to take us here.
Yeah.
And that may well be fine. And so, but if that is the case, so be it. But as a collective, and I'm grouping Arteta into that group as well right now, I'll give all of them a 7. I don't think I can individually single Edu out and say I'm gonna rate him, because I just don't feel like we know the scope of what his role and responsibilities are.
Okay, fair enough. Last question before I move on to the next caller then. Obviously, there's a lot of people that are very happy about this news. Happy that Edu is leaving. How do you feel about the process to get the replacement in, and what different do you think they could do to take us further?
So it depends on what we think the issues are. So if the issue is that the hierarchy of the club did not trust Edu to give him the full reins to actually go make these individual negotiations or whatever the case may be, then that's one thing. If the issue is you want to bring somebody on that has the reputation or the respect, or however you want to phrase that, to go out and do these jobs by themselves, then that is one thing. But as a club, yes, we need to do better with our signings. It's again, for me, it's just a little hard to pinpoint that has it been given the full reign, the full scope of responsibilities to go to do certain things. So the question has to be, if the answer to that is yes, then you want to go find somebody else that can, that can move some of these signings across the line, because it is true, the criticism that it seems like some of the top signings that we've gone for, they haven't been able to move them across the line. I mean, you're not going to get 100% of your signings, but it seems like the percentage should be a little higher, at least the ones that we know of. But outside of that, yeah.
Lai, thank you so much for your commitment and your words today. I really appreciate it. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Simba's up next. How you doing, Simba? You good? You well?
Yeah, doing good. Hopefully you can hear me.
Can indeed, mate. Can indeed. Give me a reaction
Excellent.
to this story.
So, I mean, I've heard 2 of the callers so far. I was just driving, and I just...
You pulled over now, I hope.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I think we are missing the point in terms of like the way we're viewing Edu's job.
Okay.
I think it's okay to say, for example, if you take Gabriel Michaelis, he's I'll say, that's, you can look at that one and say, hats off to Eddie. When we got that player in, look how he's grown, look how he's done well, etc., etc. And you can look at all the good stuff that he's done. That's great. That's awesome, But then the difference, the difference maker, or the bit that we're kind of where Eddie's missed it is in the crunch times. Because when you get to, I always say, when you get to the clouds, when you get to the, where it's hard to breathe, right? That's where we want to see the difference. So you take the two scenarios. One, when we bought Trossard in, right? At that point, we were like 8 points clear, I think, or we were 5 points clear of Man City or something like that. We were in January, right? So that's where we see your worth, right? That's where we test whether this is where we see, okay, are you, show us who you are at those crunch moments, not when the chips are down and everyone's kind of like trying to get, we're trying to get the club together. And everyone's going, we had Unai Emery, and we're going to give you time to kind of build the team up. That's not where we're looking, right? We're looking when it's that crunch time, when it's like, right, this is where we see who you are, show us who you are, and that's where you drop the ball. And then again, now second scenario is when we come to this transfer window. Last season, or past 2 seasons, we come second, and then I remember Arteta's words at the end of last season when we didn't quite make it. What did he say? Don't be satisfied, or something like that. Yeah, don't be satisfied. Okay, so we're like, okay, we're not satisfied. again, now this is the question. Okay, show us who you are. Show us your dissatisfaction, right? And then we go into the transfer window, and then again you drop the ball again. It's like,
how did he drop the ball? What was it that for you was not good enough?
Seize the moment, because the margins are so small when you get to the clouds, right? They're tiny margins. It's a tiny difference between your competitor. Now everyone's gonna go on about PSR and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, but then that's the problem. When it's now time to pull the trigger, Arsenal always seem to have an excuse of why they couldn't do it.
Well, I struggle with the word excuse always, because
but then okay, you can say reason.
Let me finish.
You can say reason, but it's an excuse.
I've let you talk.
But then it's an excuse because
let me finish the point, mate.
Okay, sorry.
I've let you talk for a long time. Let me finish my point. Thank you.
Sorry.
So in terms of like the excuse line, it's not an excuse. It is a reason. If you the word excuse, the issue that I've got when people use the word excuse, especially when it comes to Arsenal, is because to use it in that context is to basically say that you think Arsenal are not spending out of their own choice when they would be able to. Because if it's an excuse not to spend, you're arguing that there is a capacity to spend and they're opting not to. But by saying it's a reason, which it is, PSR being a thing and existing, whether we agree with it or not, it is a reason. If you listen to Arteta's own words in the summer, he was asked about whether that we could expect another Declan Rice style acquisition. He said, we don't expect to do anything like that. It's the reality. We have to wait and see the movements in the market. We have already identified the things that we can improve. We had the meetings in February, March, April. So if we can, we will strengthen the team. So far, I'm really happy with what we have. Now, I don't agree with him in terms of being happy with what we have. I agree with you that we needed to strengthen, that we needed to bring in more. But the idea that it's an excuse to blame PSR, I can't get on board with, because it is the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, you can say it's a reason, but what the problem is, it's a pattern. That's what I'm saying with Arsenal. It's just at the crunch moment, there's always something. There's always, even if we go back to when we bought Trossard, they could have given you a reason of why they couldn't do better than Trossard, right?
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It's at the crunch moment. It's not when it's irrelevant. When it's like, we're building the squad, we're not yet fighting for anything, then there's reasons there, but there's nothing said. There's no, we couldn't quite do this. It's kind of like when it's that moment, when you need it, when you're most desperate, when you're like, we definitely need this guy now. Yeah, it's like, we've got. Then the reasons come out.
Well, I would argue,
and then that also goes back.
23 was that moment. No, you think about the summer of 23. We surprised everybody in 22-23 by competing for the title when no one expected that to be the case. You then get second place, just messing out on the league to Man City, and then Edu and those behind the scenes go out and spend more money than the club has ever spent before, including beating Manchester City's Declan Rice in a club record deal, £65 million on Kai Havertz, £40 million just under on Yuri and Timber, who sadly wasn't available then for the whole season because of an unfortunate injury. And then because of the financial restrictions, we wanted to bring in a better goalkeeper, and we did that by bringing in David Raya on loan with an obligation to buy, so that we could then bring in an extra player within the confounds of those restrictions. So I get what you're saying in points. Like, there's definitely times where Arsenal could have done more. And this is where I'm open to the idea of Edu being replaced by somebody better. I think that's fair. But I want to stress that I think that the idea that he's always never done these things, or that Arsenal have never reacted in tough moments or moments where we needed to respond, that isn't the case, because there are summers where you can point to and say, we did some really good job there. We did a really good job in the window, and we brought in some excellent players.
Yeah, like I said, you can point to pinpoints here and there, but yes, but it's in the crunch moments when we all are waiting with bated breath, where we're like, okay, this is the crunch time. This is when we actually need someone. Not when it's, like, for example, you point to Rice. Yeah, sure, we got Rice. Yes, we can point to all those things, and we can point to all the good things a person does. That's what I'm saying, that we can't point to him and say, his whole job was terrible, and things like that.
That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous. But the point is, it's not those things, because we could just hire anyone if that's the point, right? The point is, at this point, as Arsenal Football Club, as the team that is like third best in, you know, in the UK, it's like, right, okay, well, we need to, in those crunch moments, that's where we need someone who is ready, primed for the crunch moments, not from when it's just, when it doesn't really affect us that much. And you can't, someone say, well, do you think that, you know, Rice didn't affect us that much? Yes, he did. He's obviously, it's a good signing, but it's when it's like you're 5 points ahead and you can just kind of give yourself that little boost in the arm to then get over the line. Or this summer when it's like, okay, we came second, let's really push and just get us that, you know, the striker or something that is just gonna, that game changer. We don't have any game changers anymore. We don't have like
game changers. None.
Well, you look. You can say, "Oh, we've got Saka." And
I would say that we have Saka, and I'd
yeah,
say that we
but
would
then
have
that's the thing.
Odegaard.
But we don't have. But then it's like we had, for example, we had Alexis. We had
where did we finish?
We had Özil. You know, we just don't have those players that just turn it on at the right time. You know what I mean?
I do.
And we
didn't win the league with those players, did we?
Yeah. What's that? Sorry?
I said we did have those players, but we didn't do the things that you think we should be doing even with those players.
Yes, but then the thing is now, for example, we had a great defense. It's like there's always something, right? It's always like we're lopsided. We're stacked on one side, but then the side that we actually need to then just kind of get ourselves where we need to be, we just don't do it. For example, our defense was great last year. Yeah. We didn't need more defenders. We needed like maybe strikers, but then you could argue, oh, now our defense is not that great at the moment because we're conceding a couple more goals.
Issues, but we also scored more goals than we've ever scored before in the Premier League last season.
But then that's the thing. You don't want to rest on that. That's what I mean. We kind of rest on those things.
And I think that we absolutely needed to bring in a forward player in the summer. But I'm asking the question to people: who do you go out and bring in when Arteta is telling us explicitly that we're not expecting to make a Declan Rice type signing because it's not feasible for us until we get players out the door, which we didn't get to do until the end of the window because Arsenal wanted to stand firm on their player valuations. They wanted to stand firm on what fans have been moaning and whining and begging Arsenal to get better at selling and to sell players for more money. We do that, but it means that we have to be more patient. But by the time we get the money and then to spend it on bigger players, we can't because Sesko has signed a new deal and Gyökeres decides to stay. And we still don't have the ability to go out and spend that. So this is the balance that I think fans sometimes forget, is that you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't bash Arteta and Edu for not selling well enough. And then when it comes to a window where we need to sell to be able to buy because of the restrictions that are in place, we are patient. We do well, despite everyone laughing at Arteta and Edu for not getting 30 million from Nottingham Forest from Eddie Nketiah. They're patient. They get 30 million from Eddie Nketiah from Palace. They get, 25 million pounds, including add-ons for Aaron Ramsdale. They get the money that was over 30 million pounds for Smith Rowe with a significant sell-on clause. They get that money through the door. Sadly, it happens too late in the window because sometimes you have to be patient to get the good deals done, to get the money that you want for players, to improve your sales reputation. And next summer, it would have been what bugs me the most about Edu leaving now, if it is his decision, is I honestly think it's a cop-out. I think it's a cop-out from Edu to leave at this point. Because I think the whole point of this was to build up to 2025. You've improved the sales reputation. You've got a clean net zero year of summer spending. And what we're hearing, Sky Sports supposedly reporting that this decision has apparently taken Arsenal by surprise, is what Sky are claiming. And it was not something they were expecting. So that probably puts to bed all the argument of, is this a push out the door? No, it seems very much this is Edu's decision. The criticism I've got of Edu, for all the good that he's done, is I think this is if it is the case, and we've only got limited information, it's a bit of a coward's way out at this point, because I think you've done all this work, you've built up to this point, 2025, massive year. Why have you not stayed? That's the criticism I've got to do, is why have you not stayed to see it through, see these phases, see this process through? Now, there may be some significant personal reasons that I'm not aware of. We don't know.
Yeah.
But why is my question.
But I think at this point, he's realized that, for example, in terms of the sales, I would say, he did struggle with selling players, and that has been a big problem for him. And it's something that he can't kind of shake off. And yeah, he's landed a couple of mil for players here and there, but you'd argue that these players should have gone ages ago. And for whatever reason, we struggled to sell them. And at points, for example, players, their contracts are running down, and you know that if you try and get rid of them at a certain point when the contract's down, you're not going to get as much as you want to get. So maybe you bolt on a couple of years onto them and think, well, we'll try and sell them, the next year, and it doesn't quite work out. And it just drags on. And that was a problem for him as well. And it's kind of like, well, you're kind of lopsided. Again, we were kind of lopsided. We're getting players in, but we're not quite getting the numbers in and numbers out to get, get that kind of reflection of, right, you're balanced. You're doing a great job. You're selling and you're buying. And then the thing is, you're kind of keeping money in the kitty to be able to push a bit more in those crunch moments, which is what obviously that's what I'm saying. Those things end up counting against you. And for Edu, maybe you could say they're personal reasons, but I think he knows as well. I mean,
I don't know
when he was talking,
we don't know.
When he was talking up Raheem Sterling and that, it's a great job. Yeah, or for example, it's a team effort.
He's not going to he's not going to sign a player and be like, oh.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I mean. You have to, you have to say it, right? But then all of us are sitting there going, maybe you could have done better, and you know yourself that you could have done it. And when people always, I hear this, hear it on TalkSport when it was the Gareth Southgate saga, when it was like, well, who do you get in, and things like that. I always think, when people ask that question, I would say, no, it's not my job to tell you who to get in. It's your job to find who to get in. Okay. That's why you're paid all the millions.
I struggle with that often because to have a significant foundation for anger and criticism and frustration, in my opinion, you've got to have answers to a level. Like to
a level. Sure.
You've got to come with it. You've got to come with that front and chest to be able to give me reasons, give me solutions.
Yeah, but then let's take it this way. This is how it's meant to be. You're hired for a certain job to do. We're told this is what you've come to do. Or maybe we're not. Maybe we're told it's a team effort or whatever you tell us, right?
Yeah.
But if your job is to do the recruitment and that's what you are hired to do, and you don't do that job, then it's fair game for people to criticize you for that job that you are hired to do.
He's built a squad that's taken Arsenal to 2 title challenges.
Yeah, but then you have to take the good and the bad as well. So you're going to get the people that say, sure, you can be happy with, for example, some people are giving it 8 out of 10 or whatever it may be. It's fine for people to give that rating. But then the thing is, again, what makes the difference between a recruitment team at Arsenal Football Club and a recruitment team at Man City, who were trying to beat, by the way? I don't care about whoever else. I don't care about Villa. I don't care about Real Madrid. I don't care about those teams. All I care about is the team that we're trying to beat at this moment is Man City. Yeah. So if you're at Arsenal, your job is to beat and be better than Man City. That's our job. That's our job at this moment in time, if we want to win the title. Yeah. So I'm not going to compare you to anyone else other than the team that we're trying to beat. So if you're not doing as good or better than them, then I've fair game to question you. And there's always two sides to it.
Arsenal and Man City aren't operating on the same playing field, though, are they?
Well, I think we are, because it's not like we're not able to spend as much as Man City.
Of course we can't. Of course,
why not? Why not? Why not?
Okay, let me first ask you, why do you think that we can spend as much as Man City?
Well, it's not like we're short of money. We're not short of money. Right. We are not short of money. There is no. The main reason why is usually the ownership, because it's the willingness for the ownership to spend.
Tell me your understanding of financial fair play. Tell me your understanding of it. What do you understand of financial fair play and how it works?
Well, you're not meant to spend it. You're not meant to spend more than you make in terms of profits, right?
I guess that's years.
Is it 3 years?
Yeah. So a 3-year rolling cycle, you're not meant to spend what's understood to be around 105 million when it comes to, and that's nuanced, like it's not clear cut and dry. Man City, and that's revenue, by the way. Man City have won 6 of the last 7 titles. They've won a Champions League. They've won significant numbers of trophies, which of course always bring in financial regard. Not only that, but because they've had decade plus of course, investing in younger players. And of course, when they think about Julian Alvarez, what he was sold for this summer, they are able to sell players far more effectively than Arsenal have been able to sell their players for over the last few years because the players have been better. So that has led us into a position where Arsenal, when Edu came in, had a squad that was, let's be honest, with respect to most of them, simply nowhere near the level, not good enough. We're moaning that Arsenal didn't get the money in for those players, but we're also moaning that they are, in some cases, blooming awful and not to the standard of Arsenal Football Club. So when you've got Man City being in a position where not only are they winning trophies hand over fist because they've got an excellent squad that not only did they buy, but Pep Guardiola inherited, like Vincent Kompany, De Bruyne, David Silva, etc., and so on. But they've been able to spend significantly more because their revenues have been significantly higher. And not only that, but there is an ongoing alleged financial breach that we have to discuss, which actually gave them that foundation in the years prior to Pep Guardiola taking over. So they have significantly more capacity to spend than Arsenal. It's not a level playing field in that sense, and it never has been.
Yeah, but you could say that, but then how much have we spent already? That's what I'm saying, that we're not short of money.
No,
Since Arteta came,
less than them.
No, we haven't. I mean, how much have we spent? Is it 600, 700 mil? 600, 700 mil?
How much under Arteta? We've spent around 700 million-ish.
Yeah,
how much
and so that's not being poor, is it?
No, but we finished behind the team that spent more than that since Pep Guardiola arrived. So how is that surprising?
Well, no. So we've spent 600 to 700 mil, right?
Yes.
We say that, right?
Yes.
So why haven't we got a good squad? If we spent that much money,
2 points behind the league winners. We scored more goals than we've ever scored before, more than the Invincible scored. What do you mean we haven't got a good squad? Of course we've got a good squad.
Yeah, but then we haven't got a good enough squad right now. After spending all that money, we're still saying we need more players.
Yeah, because
after spending all that money,
because we didn't win the league, so of course we need to. Well, of course we need to spend more. Of course we need to bring more players in. Of course we need to improve the depth. I'm struggling to get your points in, but because you turn around and say that we haven't got a good squad, despite the fact that we finished with more goals than ever before in the Premier League, despite the fact we finished 2 points off the team that have won the last 7 titles, despite the fact that they've spent more than us have since Pep arrived at the club. So I don't get what the point is.
How much have they spent since Arteta came? That's what I'm trying to.
I would estimate, and I'll do the calculations. It'll take me a little bit. I'd estimate that we've probably spent a similar amount since Arteta arrived.
So I get your point that when we started with Arteta, we had, you could say, an inferior squad to Man City.
You couldn't say an inferior squad. No, I'll tell you, it was significantly.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, you could say significantly inferior squad to which, by the way, we won an FA Cup with by beating Man City.
We won an FA Cup with that
squad. Right? So it wasn't that inferior. It wasn't super inferior because we still won a cup, which is the point
inferior to Man City's squad when Arteta took over.
But we spend 700 mil, and today we're still sitting here going, our squad is not good enough.
Man City sat still during those years and not spent it. Do you know how much they spent since then?
No, I don't. It was a similar amount. Same amount?
Yeah, it's a similar amount to what we've spent. It might be slightly more.
But then, yeah, okay, so we can say that. But then it goes back to my point of we've got Eddie, right? We've got Edu. And when you have those resources, it's what you're spending it on. It's the differences. It's the quality of player that we're buying. What did we get? The Fabio Vieiras, which we've now had to send back to wherever he came from, now on loan. What was it? The Brazilian, what was his name? The Marquinhos that we've bought, that we've had to cut back to wherever we sent him back. We bought him from. So yeah, exactly. It's those type of signings that it's like, well, if you're saying we've got limited resources, right? If the argument is we've got limited resources,
it's not resources, it's limited capacity to spend.
Yeah, okay, but it's still resources because,
resources. You told me, you were right. You're right. Arsenal have one of the richest owners in the world. We have a billionaire owner that's got money coming out of his backside, right? He's got loads of money. But
are owners allowed to pump in money into clubs?
No, PSR doesn't cover that. That's not how it works.
So if an owner, are they allowed to? Sorry, despite PSR not covering, are they allowed to pump in money into the club?
How would they do that?
Well, I'm just asking. Are they allowed? I don't know. I'm saying, are they allowed to pump in? Do you know, or do we not know?
if to give you an example, if you look at the rules that have been tried to introduce, and what obviously there's a lot of stuff going on in Manchester City right now. The arguments surrounding sponsorship and the level of sponsorship that's come from companies or places, of course, that have got their links to the City ownership that have allegedly been inflated above what the value of those sponsorships are. It's a case of like, how would you do it? You could do it through loans, you could do it through different ways, but it doesn't matter how the money goes in. It's about how it matches up against your revenue. And if you're spending more than you're making at a considerable level, which Arsenal have had to do, if you look at the finances over years and years and years, we've made consistent losses. If you look at the financial accounts, they've been a loss after loss after loss. That's not sustainable. You can't keep doing that, because if you keep doing that to a certain level, you will face punishments for it. Just look at Chelsea with the transfer ban, or you look at the way in which other clubs have been deducted points recently. The only reason that's not happened to Man City yet is because the volume of charges they're facing right now takes so long for that process to work out, and we'll get a result. We'll get a result of that hopefully next year.
When are we getting there? I mean, we're relying on that result. I mean, the way it's coming out
on that at all, because Arsenal, despite the fact that that's been ongoing, Arsenal have continued every single season under Edu and Arteta to move closer to that goal. They've got closer to winning the. You're shaking your head, but tell me why that's wrong.
I mean, yeah, sure, we've got closer, but then it's all what I always go back to is in the difference makers, in those crunch moments when we need to get over the line, we haven't, which has then hampered the progress in terms of getting that revenue in, which we are all saying we need. So if we wanted to be in the position that Man City's in and doing it better, because we think we can do it better without, breaching PSR.
Sure.
The only way to be in the position that we want to be is in those moments when we had the opportunity. Especially, I go back to the season where we were 8 points ahead is the one that hurts the most, because we were 8 points ahead of Man City. Yeah. And at that point, I don't think we did what we needed to do. Imagine if we'd won the league at that point. That would have been an absolute difference maker in terms of one, bringing revenue, because we're winners now. There's things that it just makes a difference, because Man City have shown us that if you consistently win, that makes it a huge difference.
Yeah.
To how your club operates and the players that you potentially can attract. But that's what I'm saying. In those crunch moments, again, that's my point. That why I would say Edu needs to go.
Gives you the money to spend. That's what I was saying. I'm glad you're taking it on board. But like,
what's that? Sorry.
I said that's what I was saying. I was saying that Man City's significant amount of winning trophies and winning leagues and winning cups and Champions Leagues means that they've been given the capacity and the freedom to spend more money than Arsenal have been able to spend themselves, because they've had to build from the ground up when Edu and Arteta came in to get to this point. Like, I'm not sitting here as someone who thinks that Edu is the Messiah and he's done this perfect job and he's infallible in every single way. That's not what I'm saying. I think personally that people like yourself are significantly too strict or too criticizing of the work that's been done. Can we do better? Should someone come in and do a better job? If they are available, absolutely. But I am concerned that the person, because this isn't a decision that seems, from what we're hearing, that Arsenal have taken. It's not a decision that's happened like, because if he's
done it himself.
Well, that's what it sounds like. And if you're from the perspective what it sounds like you are, that you want someone instead of Edu to be there, from my perspective, if I was in that position, I'd want the club to have taken that choice, not the person actually who's left. Because if you're taking that decision, it's yourself, it's because you, A, think that they're not doing enough. They may have done a good job, but they're not doing enough. And B, you know that you've got someone ready to come in and you've got someone in mind to come in and do a better job. But if it's the guy himself making that decision, and it seems from what has been reported that it's taken somewhat the club by surprise, I'm worried, because that means that someone else who's coming in at the moment, we don't know if the club knows who's that going to be, and we don't know if they're going to do a better job or be better at their job than what they're doing.
But then I know, I understand that. But then again, it goes back to like a club like Arsenal. We should have people who are chomping at the bit to get to a club like Arsenal, right? And we should have. And again, it goes back to things like foresight, right? That's the thing that you have to have. You have to have good foresight, especially if you're a big club like Arsenal. We're competing with, again, we're trying to compete with the best. You have to be ready for those type of situations. You have to be ready for any outcome as a club like Arsenal. You have to be, because at any point, anything can happen. So we have to have these things in place where it's like, well, what if Ødegaard gets injured?
Yeah.
What if Ødegaard, what if Saliba gets injured, right? What if we have to be working? We have to have those kind of war room situations where it's like, well, what if we have, if you've got your fire drill, right? You've got your fire drills ready for any eventuality, especially.
Some players are extremely difficult to replace. Like, it's all well and good saying we need to have a backup to Odegaard or a backup to Saka. But Man City, for instance, have lost Rodri this season, right? They just lost to Bournemouth. They dropped points to us. They're falling behind Liverpool at the moment. Who is their replacement for Rodri in that team right now?
Yeah, there's some players who are outstanding. Like, for example, if you went to...
Who's the replacement for Rodri in that
that's what I'm saying. I agree. I am agreeing with you. Because I was going to give example like Barcelona. Like, for example, Messi got injured, right? During Messi's side. Who's Messi's replacement? Like, everyone knows, right? There's no one can replace Messi, right? You're either getting 3-4 players to do what one player does, right? If, for example, right now, Rodri is one of Man City's best players. I mean, some of our fans were celebrating when Rodri sometimes when it was out for a game. We would be like going, "Oh, Rodri's out." It would be the same when Arsenal had Vieira, right? If Vieira was out for a game, you know what I mean? There are those players that are just literally irreplaceable.
But the thing is,
but then I wouldn't. But the thing is, I wouldn't put Odegaard in Rodri's bracket of irreplaceability. I wouldn't.
Really?
I wouldn't.
Who's created more chances in Europe over the last 2 seasons than Odegaard?
Yeah. I mean, you could say that. But
no, I'm not saying. I'm telling you.
He is not. No. But then he is not. Wait. No. Let's go on to the. Let's get. No. Let's get onto the big games. Let's get onto the big games Odegaard is not a difference maker in big games. Odegaard sometimes goes missing in big games. Right. Rodri does not go missing in big games. Odegaard goes missing in big games. So I wouldn't put him in the same bracket as Rodri. I wouldn't. Rodri just won a Ballon d'Or, so I wouldn't put Odegaard in the same bracket as Rodri. I just wouldn't.
Odegaard does sometimes go missing in big games. I don't think that's an unfair assessment of Odegaard's performances, but sometimes the best players in the world just have that record. If you look at Thierry Henry's record in finals, it's not very good. That doesn't mean that Thierry Henry wasn't a brilliant player. And I'm not saying that Odegaard's on his level. It's just an example that these players sometimes just have these records where games don't suit them. Odegaard's record against big teams isn't the best, but sometimes he does turn up, scoring against Manchester United at home, scoring against Tottenham Hotspur away. These are big games where Odegaard has had a significant performance in. But at the same time, if you take out Rodri from that squad, Man City don't have a player who can naturally come into that position at the moment. Whether or not it needs to be a good player is irrelevant, because the fact of the matter is, like with us and Odegaard, they don't have a DM at all that can come into that role. They got other loads of box-to-box midfielders like Mateus Nunes, etc. But they don't have that. And if they, after Julian Alvarez was sold, for instance, who did they buy to replace Julian Alvarez, who was their number 2 striker to Erling Haaland? No one.
But then I would say that. But then I'd say Rodri's just an exceptional player. I just wouldn't put Rodri in the same bracket as Odegaard. I just wouldn't.
I'm not going to have an argument about whether or not Rodri is better than Odegaard, because clearly Rodri is a better player than Odegaard. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that some players are of a standard that it's exceptionally difficult to replace them. And so,
but I think we can go out there and find a player who can step in place of Odegaard. We just didn't have the money, like you've just said. We just didn't have the money to do it.
If we did have the money, who was it?
Hey, look, again, I always go back to that. I am not paid how much ever Edu or Arteta or whoever the recruitment is. If I was paid that much, then I would definitely, you would have to hold me to that question you definitely need to name someone to come and replace Odegaard.
Despite you're not being paid to do that job, despite the fact that you're not being in a position to do that job, you are still here phoning in on a show, significantly criticizing but you don't have the solution.
Yes, because, for example, we bring in these players, these people or players or whoever it may be to do the job that we can't, right? We're bringing them in to say, look, I've got a gap in my need. My need is someone to come into an 8, a 10, or whatever it may be and do this job. And I'm bringing you in to do this, and I'm going to pay you this much. If you don't do that job that I bring you to do, and I'm paying you to do it, then it's fair game for me to criticize you for what I'm paying you to do and you're not doing.
But you will.
It's okay for me to criticize you and say, look, you need to do a better job. And then if you don't continue, Yeah, but then if you don't do it, then I'm going to look at the people who are hired to go and find people to come and do that job and say, go and find me someone to come and do that job. I don't care who their name is, where they come from, whatever it may be. Go and find me someone to come and do that job that I want to get done. What's that? Sorry?
Who's your replacement for Edu?
At this moment in time, I wouldn't know any sporting director that I could think of to say, come and replace Edu. I wouldn't have a name.
Fair enough. And that's fair
I
enough.
wouldn't have a name.
We've had an excellent chat. We've talked for a long time. There's a lot of callers still waiting. I appreciate it. I've given you the time of day. I hope you think that I have, but thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simba.
Have a good one. Cheers, Tom.
Lovely stuff. Woo! Good chat. This is what I mean. This is why we invite people on, different views, different opinions. That's what I'm not closing anyone out. I want people to come on and give their point of view. Rich has been very, 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 very patient waiting. So I'm going to get Rich on. Actually, there's a few more of you. Don't worry. I've got a day off today, so I've got loads of time to talk about Edu. Don't you worry. Rich, how you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you doing, Tom?
Yeah, good, mate. Not bad. Not bad. Just checking how much water I've got in there. Yes, plenty. It'll be fine. Keep going, Rich. Tell me how you feel.
I caught off guard, to be honest. Like you said, if Edu was brought in to build and finish up a project, then you're right, it's cutting before the project is complete.
That's bothering me the most, Rich, is that
same here.
What we're hearing is it's his decision to leave, and we need more information. We need to know more before we can form a real opinion on it. But it worries me, Rich, that he's leaving of his own accord before this project is done.
I literally woke up and scrolled through my phone and saw your show was live and saw the announcement and had not seen anything significant outside of the Daily Mail and the other articles. So I'd be curious to see what the Athletic, Ornstein, and some of those guys feed us, because I think as far as journalism goes, they're going to have and present better insight than most of the journalists. So I'm curious to see what happens there. Still, just listening to some of the people on the show, it's really difficult to put into words without looking back and looking at the key situations that led to us being 8 points ahead and then not finishing that season out on top. With
obviously
having
Saliba being injured was
exactly.
Part.
So context. And even this season, the Odegaard replacement thing. Odegaard's been one of our best performers, if not our best performer. So going into the season,
last 2 seasons in a row.
Exactly. So there should be a lot of context in these arguments, and I'm not hearing as much because there's no way we would have guessed that the player of the season, who's not been injured for a significant period of time, is now out for two months. And even to bring in Ethan Winery, who I think is promising. He's 17 years old. So do you really want to risk hampering that kid's development by really
I think we could have given him more minutes, Rich.
I agree. But my thing is, again, is we're expecting him at this point as fans, because the emotional sense of fandom of this kid has come through the ranks. We've seen the level of talent because he's been in and about the first team for the past 2 years, that he's going to perform at the same levels as Saka or Martinelli when he first came on. And that may not be the case over a duration of time, because again, he should be given more minutes, because we've let the likes of Smith Rowe and Fabio Vieira go. And I'm assuming that was with the intent of playing Ethan more.
It definitely was. You would think so. If it wasn't, it's a criticism.
I get that. But I think, again, with the number of injuries we've had, we've worked with makeshift squads for the past 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we only missed Ødegaard against Newcastle. I mean, I have Calafiori, you could argue, but like that team was good enough to beat. I don't want to get distracted into kind of the game stuff, but like just quickly, Rich, before I move on to the next call, like out of 10,
Sure.
what would you rate Edu's job? How do you see him having done, and how hard of a job is it going to be to replace him?
I would rank him as an 8.
Yeah.
I'm like you in the sense that Rome is not built overnight. There were a lot of players at the beginning of Edu's tenure that were unmovable because their performance levels. So to say that, you know, he's to be held at the same standards of a City, Liverpool, or you know, a Chelsea who've been really good at selling players. You can't sell players who aren't sellable. You know, and this past window, we don't know the remit, so we're basing it off of, you know, hearsay or, you know, PSR, which I think was the biggest reason why we didn't do what, you know, fans wanted us to do. But we still got close to 100 million, if not 100 million, in commitments for the players.
Yeah.
So, you know, could we have done better? Possibly, but if you told me, you know, 100 million for the likes of, you know, Smith Rowe, Eddie Nketiah, and, you know, I think that's a pretty damn good window.
Yeah, I mean, sales-wise, it is. I absolutely think we fell short in terms of recruitment, but I think there are mitigating circumstances to explain why we did that people don't take into account because it's.
And I agree. But at the same time, so, you know, hearing the Cescos, if we're going to the next steps, you want to bring in a player that everybody's in agreement with, not just any player. So,
yeah, of course.
And if you look at, you know, as far as who was available for the right amount of money, he was the ideal. He checked a lot of boxes. So to then say, you know, we didn't get him over the line. We didn't get him over the line, you know, but we shouldn't just settle for the next name on the sheet. And the same with Nico Williams. It's been not only rumored but widely put out there that Arsenal really liked the player, but it was going to be hard to prize him away from. So, you know, we've done well with replacement players. Trossard was a hell of a replacement. So, and going back to that window, I take Trossard 10 days out of 10 over what, you know.
I thought we spent 60 million in that January window, brought in Kivior, Jorginho, and Trossard when we were in a title race. Like I struggle with the criticisms of that January window. That
I do
the
too.
January window after that, we were trying to bid 70 million for Moises Caicedo. No, it's the same window, wasn't it? We bid 70 million for Moises Caicedo after the whole Mudryk situation as well. You can't say that Arsenal didn't try during that window to bring top players in, but the players, when you know the prices for those players, which Mudryk was ridiculous. Chelsea paid it, and for Brighton it was mad, and eventually Chelsea paid that too in the summer. So yeah,
and you can compare us to the other clubs because City has won 6 or 7 champions.
I
like you can't. The revenue is so much bigger than ours.
Yeah.
So you can't compare.
People look at
them.
ownerships and think Stan Kroenke's a billionaire. Why aren't Arsenal spending loads of money every single summer? It's like that's not how it works.
It's not how it works.
I can't stress that enough. People want to believe that's how it works because that's how it works on FIFA or Football Manager. It doesn't work that way in the real world.
And I totally agree. I mean, I think it's difficult to take, you know, with the position we're in right now, that you got to put aside the I would say delusions, because that's the only.
I'm never a fan of that word. I think people are misinformed. I just think people are misinformed, Rich, sadly. There's a lot of people that spread a lot of lies about the club and spread a lot of lies about the reality of the situation that aren't true, and people suck it up because it's easy to.
But what can't be argued is how well we've done over the past 3 years now.
This is the word I will use sometimes is people are spoiled, in my view. People say, we've not won trophies, we're not won enough leagues or whatever. It's sport first and foremost. You're never entitled to anything. But there's been times where I've done videos, as you know, I've been doing podcasting for 8 years now. I remember back in 2016, I was so like watching Arsenal was almost a chore.
Yeah,
it was
I
almost a
remember.
chore. And
I
we
remember.
go into the last 2 seasons, we've gone into games where really, other than the last few weeks because of just the dip we've had, but up until now, we've been in a really privileged position to basically go into every game believing we can win it, and that's because of the squad that we've built, it's because of the manager we've got, the philosophy that we've had. And sadly, we've dipped, and I'm hoping that we can rescue it. But Rich, I've got some more callers to tune in. I know you've been very patient. I really appreciate it.
I
So
appreciate it,
you.
Tom. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Rich.
Have a good day.
Fantastic. Have you a good day too, mate. Have a good one.
Thanks, man.
Thank you to Rich. Rich has been waiting a very long time. Obviously, there's some calls have gone on longer than others, just because that's what conversations do. We've got some more calls. I can see Louis, CJ, Raf, and Tyzer and Mohammed all waiting to come on. I'm going to try and get you all on, guys. So if you continue to be patient, I will try. But I'll probably close the phone lines from this point. So if you're not waiting at this stage, I do have to have a Monday. So otherwise, I'll be here forever. Louis is up next. Louis, mate, how you doing? You good? You well?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Tell me, obviously, you've been waiting and listening to a lot of what other people have had to say.
Yeah.
So, where's your opinion formed from all of this?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot more context needs to be had around it. A lot of people have been pretty critical, which I mean, they can have their opinions, but when Eddie joined the club, and I guess when Arteta joined as well, we weren't a Champions League club. We were a club sitting down in 10th when Arteta joined. The sort of players that he's mainly held to the stick for is Pablo Marie, the William, Diel, Nuno, Cedric, Sam Belaconga. These are players that we brought in when we were pushing for even just like Europa League. So I think there's a lot of context around some of those transfers. And a lot of people mentioned about how our selling has been very poor until I suppose this year. But who's coming in for the players that we had at the time? We had a lot of Deadwood, some of those players mentioned, but the squad we had, we had some disgruntled players that we had to get rid of. Guendouzi and Aubameyang, and overall, I think he's about a 7 or 8 he's done. It's just, I guess there's a lot of recency bias, and yeah.
No, I agree with you. I said I was an 8, and I think someone said it was a 7. I don't think I'd argue too much with them. Over a slight dip in that rating. I think going lower than that is affected by recency bias and perhaps a lack of understanding of the context of the last 5 years as well. Well, let me ask you, because obviously I think we align on a lot from what you said there. Let me ask you how you feel about let's play the hypothetical game, because the information that we do have is it seems to be that this is his choice, his decision. Sky are even putting these Nottingham Forest hashtags into a lot of their tweets on this. I think it's Lyle Thomas has tweeted that out. Obviously, we heard 3 months ago that Nottingham Forest's owner was keen on Edu perhaps coming into their group of clubs. We don't know if that's anything to do with this decision, but if it was, I'd personally be pretty fuming if it turned out Edu went off to work there with this project not done. So tell me hypothetically, based upon those and of what we do know and what we don't know, how you feel about that side of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was pretty shocked with the news. I saw he had changed the thumbnail and title right when I clicked on it. I mean, I'll be pretty disappointed as well. All the stories you hear with Arteta last season saying don't be satisfied, and some of Edu's interviews, you do think that he would have stayed. If it's a personal reason, I guess we can't really speculate too much around that. But if it is that he's gone to Forest, then I would be very disappointed. But I would imagine it's not going to be a step up in terms of clubs, but it could be a step up in terms of roles if he is going to be a sporting director for a group of clubs. It could be an enticing offer, but even then, I still think he had to stay to at least the end of the season and give the club a bit of time, because if you've said that the club is shocked with the news, it kind of tells me that it's been kind of a quick decision and they might not have any replacements lined up. I don't think they're going to do a shocking announcement soon. Arsenal, they'll probably hold off for a while. I'll be pretty disappointed though if it comes out pretty soon that he goes to Forest.
If he went to Forest, goodness me, I think that changes the context of the conversation around Edu a lot, a hell of a lot. If that's the case.
Chris Wood, though, by the way.
Yeah, Chris Wood convincing everyone to move to Forest at this moment. But if that was the case, that would be significant, I think, in the context of the conversation about Edu and his tenure at the club as well. Louis, thank you for your time and your comments. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, mate.
So thanks for all your shows and for advocating on a lot of the issues you do as well, especially for tourist fans. And yeah, it's much appreciated.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad that it reaches
nice to get on the show too.
Yeah, of course. Pleasure to have you, mate.
Speak soon. It's been a couple of years. All right, see ya.
Have a good one, mate. Lovely stuff. Yeah, the conversation about tourist fans as well takes, more turns every single week, and we won't stop talking about those pretty tricky topics. I have to say, I'll just jump into the chat box. I'm going to get CJ on next, but I should jump into the chat. It's mad to me, some of the views people have. And I'll read kind of some of the comments here. Let me see if I can find what I was talking about. Jay said in the chat, Edu didn't get a single one of his targets. Always panic buying. We had targets and lost them all. I'm glad Edu is gone. You've all witnessed and followed Arsenal for the last 5 years, and I'm assuming Jay has too. What do you think makes people have these views that are just patently untrue? If you look at this summer as an example, I'm not going to even have to go back any further than this year. Ricardo Calafiori was a target that Arsenal, of course, had. We didn't go for another defender in the summer. Got him. Mikel Merino, a midfield target that we had. We signed him. I don't have to go back further than 3 months to prove what Jay believes as certain fact as a falsehood. And sadly, so many thousands of fans believe that, and it's mad. CJ, good to have you on the show, my friend. How you doing, mate?
Good, man.
Oh, you're a bit quiet, CJ. Check your microphone settings for a sec. I can barely hear you.
Okay. You hear me better?
See if the because I can see you got headphones in. Just have a quick look on the settings and see if you've got the right microphone attached. If not, take the headphones out completely and go through the phone. That might be better.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if that works. I can hear you. That's a bit better.
Okay, all right. So
tell me what you're feeling about Edu.
I've been watching you for a while now.
Thanks, mate.
Edu, not good enough. Not good enough. And I've been watching Arsenal for years now. And sometimes I regret being an Arsenal fan, to be honest.
Being an Arsenal fan?
Yeah, it's just that I can't help myself.
Why are you an Arsenal fan, CJ?
Thierry Henry, and players like that. And to see what Arsenal have become right now, mind-boggling. And
let me ask you a question quickly, because I think it will provide some context. Did you choose to support Arsenal because they were a successful club and won things?
Yes.
And were winning? If someone was, and I'm not saying I'm this person, but if someone was to call you a glory hunter, what would you say?
No. Well, you could say, they could call me whatever they want, but I'm a person. If I am into something, I want to know that I'm succeeding. Okay. You have 20 teams fighting for one trophy. My God, you have to be in there about. You have to do the necessary to be there about.
Yes. The reason why I asked you that question, CJ,
like what Arsenal have been doing for the past couple of years.
The reason why I asked you that question, CJ, is obviously it provides context to me understanding where your headspace is regarding the club. Because if you've supported the club for the reason that they are and were successful and were winning things and were at the absolute elite level, that provides me context to better understand the situation. Nothing wrong with that, of course.
And not only the thing is, I accept certain things because I heard somebody speaking one time, and they said that Stan Kroenke said that he didn't buy Arsenal to win trophies.
Yes, that is.
So what I did, I didn't take their word for it. I went and dig to see if he really said that.
Yeah.
So the Arsenal fans that really want to win titles, they need to come out of this club, because this club is not ready to win titles. Because if the owner said that, you fighting that is not the owner objective. That is not his priority. So to be expecting that from the club, you just fighting a losing battle. You understand?
I get where you're coming from. The whole ownership side of thing is slightly different these days. Obviously, when that quote came out many, many, many years ago, prior to obviously the entire takeout. I think it was 2 years prior to the full buyout of the club. And obviously, since then, Josh Kroenke has taken over a large portion of the operating of Arsenal from an ownership perspective. And his view is very different to Stan Kroenke's.
So, Tom, I want to ask you a question.
Go for it, man.
Do airline companies, if no matter how a pilot studies to become a pilot and thing, do airline companies just take a pilot and just give him in charge of a Boeing 747 without somebody that has experience to control?
Is that an argument of Arteta's management? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, based on that. So because this
I don't think the analogy really worked. You're asking me, would I get on a plane if I knew that the person taking over the pilot seat was? I know where you're coming from. I just don't think the analogy works.
Okay. I'm going to make it more simpler for you, right?
Sure, please.
Let's say you this rich guy. Okay, you have a Lamborghini or some car that costs a couple $100,000, $1 million, $4 million, right?
One day.
Are you going to take it and give it to your son that never been in front of steering wheel before?
Well, probably not, because is he over 18? Has he got a license or? I feel like you're overcomplicating this situation, CJ. Look, let me steer you back to the conversation, CJ. Let me steer you back to the conversation. So Edu obviously is going, because that's the report is what we understand about this. You think you say you're happy he's going because he's not being good enough. What needs for you? What does the next person that comes into this role? What do they need to do differently to Edu? Let me ask you that question.
Okay, right. Like that question you asked me there is not plain black and white, right? So let me tell you.
Of course,
because Edu say he's not only responsible. Is he an Arteta? They're like a team, right? They're like a team. So what one agree with, the other agree with. So in terms of bringing in players, that is something that is they agree on that. Okay. So when I watch players like Runnison, Criminal.
These are years ago, though, CJ. That was years ago.
Yeah, but these are the mistakes that that novice people do. Especially for the club like Arsenal. So Arteta didn't watch what Runnison was doing before they accept that signing.
I struggle with this, CJ, because I can't make a judgment on a sporting director's tenure based upon a transfer that cost $1 million from a third choice goalkeeper from 4 years ago.
Another thing, Fabio Vieira, man, no, but I don't only watch Arsenal play football, and let me tell you that I support Arsenal not only because of their success, it's because I support good football, because Arsenal was playing good football at the moment, So
and that's why I asked you why you supported Arsenal, because it's important to understand the context.
Arteta came in and he had to take some time to embed it, because we all know he never managed a big club before. So you give him his time to bed in and thing, and he start playing good football. He start playing tiki-taka football. Everybody like that pretty football,
Yeah.
But fast forward to today. You thought that would be building on what? Okay, we lost. We lose out to our first title challenge, huh? So you would think that you would buy the necessary, but you cannot unscrew. You cannot unscrew. Take a flat end to you have flat end screwdrivers, and then you buy in the cursive. No, you buy. I
love these analogies, CJ. They're great.
You buy the flat end screwdriver to unscrew the screw. You guys are flat end. Is that it made for?
I know what you're saying. Is square peg round hole and all that. But my issue.
Let me land that. For example, Xhaka left, right? They sold off Xhaka. My God, there was so many number 8s that was better than Xhaka. They could have bought and just bring in and with all that
got 16th in the Ballon
complication.
d'Or, CJ. Xhaka
Huh?
just finished 16th in the Ballon d'Or standings.
Xhaka?
Yeah,
But
Xhaka. He got higher than any Arsenal player.
Yeah,
no
but
Arsenal player finished higher in the Ballon d'Or
but
standings.
Xhaka only performed that last year before he leave.
Yeah.
He was only shining, but before that, but besides he wasn't playing that role anyway. So Arteta put him in that role, and he played well.
So who would you have signed, CJ? Last couple of questions. I've got to move on. But who would you have signed to replace Xhaka that Edu didn't sign? Because you just said there were so many players that would be better than him.
I would take Eze.
Eze.
Barella.
Yeah.
Italy, the guy there.
Yeah, I know Barella. Yeah.
There are quite a few players in Spain. They are good. Dani Olmo. These guys are creative players.
They are, but they're not box to box. I mean, well, Barella is, but like Olmo and Eze are attacking midfielders that would be playing more in the role of Ødegaard than they would in the role of Xhaka. I think Barella's a good example, but from the sounds of it, he's very happy at Inter Milan and wasn't going to be looking to leaving anytime soon. And by the way, Barella did not finish higher than Xhaka in the latest Ballon d'Or standings. Quite far from it, in fact. But I think
sometimes statistics doesn't really mean nothing, eh?
Well, if they're used incorrectly, sure, but I don't think here. I don't think here that's the case.
Because Arsenal, there's Arsenal fans, there's Arsenal they come with XG and this and that, but you still lose the game. You might have better XG. And
we didn't have better XG and we lost the game the weekend. So sometimes XG doesn't back your argument either, to be fair. CJ, let me finish on this. I think for me, and the reason, because a few people in the chat box took an issue with me saying that, like asking about like why you supported Arsenal with that. The reason why I asked you why you supported Arsenal was obviously because you started out by saying, you regret being an Arsenal, choosing to be an Arsenal fan. You said you regret
based on what I see now.
But and that's fine. I'm not going to criticize you for that. I just think that's the difference from where I'm coming at from the perspective and where you're coming at from the perspective. Because if you choose to support Arsenal because obviously they had Thierry Henry and they're incredibly successful and they're winning every single week and they're winning trophies hand over fist. Of course, when you go through a period where you're not doing that, I can understand why, of course, you would be more bemused and more critical of things. What I would say, though, is that ironically, Edu and Arteta combined have got us the closest we have gotten to being back to the days of Thierry Henry than anyone else in the last 10 plus years prior to that point.
Okay. Now, just my last point. So, Arteta have been using basically his first 11 for the past couple of seasons. So, don't you think that Arteta should try to, they should have tried to brought in players to upgrade on certain players in the first 11 than to try to change the bench?
I mean,
because,
I think
basically the first 11 that was playing most of the game for this season, unless if it have an injury, Arteta will really make changes like that.
Yeah, his rotation is an area where I would...
my thought process is your first 11 taking you so far, but they're not good enough. And the people that you have on the bench is already not good enough. So why not change the weaknesses in your first 11, put them on the bench, and those you have on the bench, sell them off. In that way, you strengthening, but you keep trying to strengthen the bench when you're first, because right now, Martinelli and those guys getting stale right now, because I'm tired of watching them, because every week is the same thing. I know what they're going to do already, so I didn't need to watch the game. Is go from the side, come there, pass it backwards, go to the other side, and it's the same thing. That's starting to make me go mad, you know?
Yeah, and look, trust me, I was going mad watching the Newcastle game as well, mate. I was going mad watching it as well.
I watched the game with Newcastle, and I had to leave the game because it was frustrating me, because it's the same thing. We need some better players, man. They need better first team players. They need top class players now.
No, and I think we can buy more, and I think hopefully we will buy more. And it's a challenge to do that. But hopefully, CJ, I'm gonna have to let you go because I've got some more callers.
My last point. Sometime in certain stages in your life, it's like, okay, I'm going to give you an next analogy again. You work in, you have money, right? So
sorry, yeah.
So you have a job. You already like making it in life. Now to go and put yourself with a woman that just is like you is negative because you're setting back yourself to take somebody on to So at the stage Arsenal is right now, we're supposed to be bringing to the high quality players if we want the title, and that is why I think that they're not pushing for that title. They're just satisfied with.
Okay.
We get top four, we get
I don't
Champions
agree.
League.
I don't think they're satisfied. I think Arteta told people not to be satisfied. But we're not going to lie. Just before you go, CJ, just quickly before you go, RM said in the chat he thinks that your comment where you said you regret being an Arsenal fan was a joke. Was it a joke or were you serious? Do you seriously regret being an Arsenal fan?
Well, not like I regret some, but the things I seen that going on, because people, the kind of exaltation like they're giving us Arteta haven't done nothing to deserve that. You run down to Caesar which is Caesar. Arteta is not an elite manager, and people have that, and he believe he getting so much hype that he's believing in the hype too much, and he's arrogant. You check? So sometimes it just boggling to see that you just have to be humble,
The man that got you to support Arsenal, Thierry Henry, was also exceptionally arrogant, and it helped him, of course, be the player that he was. But CJ, thank you for your time, mate. I really appreciate it. And I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Nice talking to you, man.
Nice talking to you. Lovely stuff. Got a few more callers. Raf's up next. How you doing, Raf? You good? You well? Take yourself off mute, and we'll be able to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm just, I'm shocked, to be honest. I'm quite surprised. Obviously, you had time to digest it, listening to all of the callers. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. I think there's been a few callers that kind of gave me a little bit of hope in our fan base, in a sense. But I think it's just a bit much, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
Me, I've been obviously negative at times, or about things that Edu's done. I mean, we've had conversations when I've said in the past, I guess about his selling, I'd say is the main area that I think he could have improved in. But like, I think you've got to look at context of his whole tenure. Like, we were like struggling. You got to remember as well, when he took over, Raul Sanllehi had done like some weird kind of, he didn't leave it under the best. There was a bit of a cloud. Edu's come in, kind of steadied the ship, and then took us to positions that we haven't been in for a long time. That's not to say that we should be just accepting of those positions, but you can't just say, "Oh, he's done nothing," because we haven't won something. I don't know. I feel like there's like an error of like fan base where it's like you either win or you were or failed, and I just don't think that that's realistic.
It's a really binary way of
it's so binary, and it's very black and white. And I look at it and I think, okay, in the best times that we've had as Arsenal fans, if social media was the way it was, if things were the way it was, you would have deemed Wenger as a failure. Like, there's been times when he didn't win the league. Like, there would, like, I remember seasons
when that Mark Viduka goal went in, Raf.
Goodness
me, imagine.
And it's just like, I think sometimes you have to just like take a step back and actually look at things in its entirety, rather than like, well, he didn't win. He didn't buy this player, he didn't buy that player. Like, I mean, we come on, like our squad compared to, I heard people kind of saying, there was a caller saying like Man City's squad and we spent the same. Like, the context has become so different. Like, and that's not to say that he's without blame. Like, I'd say that
believe that then, Raf. Like, why do they have that point of view?
I mean, there is context. Obviously, for example, now Man City have spent less over the last couple of years than they did prior.
They've built the perfect squad,
but they've obviously built the squad. So it's like, and you look at when Pep took over, you quite rightly pointed out, he had a base of
Company,
David Silva, De
Bruyne.
You still had Yaya, you still had, because people act like the team he had before. Obviously, he brought in new players. He had an amazing team to begin with.
Of course, yeah.
So I think obviously it's kind of like, what now? I think everyone's in a kind of like a what now era, where it's like, all right, well, we've done this, now we need to win. And it's like, and I'm not saying you should just be content with losing.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Come on. We were there was a time when we were looking at Champions League, and people were saying we're never going to get the opportunity to get Champions League again if we don't beat Tottenham.
Yeah.
And then we finished second the year after, nearly won the league.
Yeah.
Similarly, last year they said that there's, we're never going to get a better chance, and that could all be true. But from what we're looking at, the trajectory of the team now compared to when he took over, you've got to say that there's an element of success. Of course, there's errors, there's missteps, but there's missteps with Arteta too. There's missteps with Garlic probably in the Cronkies. Like it's, I don't think it's kind of
and City as well. Like as I said before, I pointed out, like Rodri's out. They haven't brought in a DM. And if Haaland goes out, they've not replaced Julian Alvarez.
100%.
Like it's not just Arsenal that make errors. I know they've won, etc., and so on trophies, and so then they've earned a right to have missteps, but that's still relevant to the conversation. For me, it's a case of Raf. Like I will back a regime at a club until they give me the reasons to not to. And so far, I've not been shown the reasons to not back what's going on. By the end of the season, that could change. It's the footballification of a position. Like people feel they're not just fans of Arsenal anymore. People feel they have to be fans of a point of view.
100%. And I feel like, and I don't know if it's because of the social media era, not like yourself. I think you're quite a measured, but obviously you have your opinions, but you're quite measured in your opinions. Like I do think that sometimes you see people's opinions kind of rear their head when a certain directive goes. So whether it's Arteta's doing well, and it's like, see, when
we lost at the weekend, I was on a Twitter conversation, which is never a good idea. I was on a Twitter conversation with somebody about like the title race and winning trophy and stuff. We lost, and they didn't reply to a question I asked, and then the day we lost to Newcastle, I got a notification on my phone saying they'd liked the tweets that they'd written days prior. Like that's the state of what some people get into. It's mad.
And again, there's so many. And you had a point before. When you look at Haaland, City don't have a replacement for Haaland. They didn't have a replacement for Rodri. They've had to. Liverpool in a similar situation when Van Dijk got injured. They didn't really have a ready-made replace like for like that you could say is at the same level. When you have players like that, and we have this conversation with Saka a lot. When you have players that are effectively going to play every single game if they're fit, Ødegaard, Saka, Saliba, those kind of players, most squads are not going to have just a like for like replacements. Like we didn't like, and it's just one of those things. You're going to have a little bit of luck in season. I think the area where I look at Arsenal, and it's starting to look a little bit like this season, is that last year, and maybe I would say maybe especially last year in general, even though we had injuries, we didn't have injuries to our core, and I think that it's going to be unlikely that we just never have injuries to our core players to a degree in a season going forward. That's what's and we're going to just have to manage that, and I think we've managed it okay, but not good enough so far. We need to find different solutions. And I think Ødegaard was a bit of a misstep. But like you said, preview, I don't know if Vieira would have been the answer that we would have been looking for either. So there's things that we could have done. I don't want to go too deviate. I think Edu in general has done well. I think that you've got to look at his tenure as a success. I just think there's areas that he could have improved, which anyone could have. Like, I definitely think sales. I think that there have been some signings that maybe we reacted to, and some went well, some didn't. People look at the Brazilian market. I can again, these are all tangible things that you could say. Could he have tapped more into the Brazilian market? Could we have brought in more young players or players that were maybe for less value that could have improved their value since we got here? Like, I would say that most players we bought them at a decent price, and they maybe have improved or are at that price. I don't know many kind of gems that we've bought under his tenure that we could say, okay, we bought him for 2-3 million, and then he's now 60, 70, 80 million pound player. There's not loads of those. And I think that could be improved, maybe the scouting network, but that's not all down to him. Like, I look at Arteta as someone that doesn't look like he would be the quickest to want those type of players. He looks like ready-made players that can actually provide solutions straight away a lot of the time. Even the young players that Arteta's bought have been very experienced young players in general. So I think Rice, Ødegaard, Havertz, if you look at their age, but they've played loads of minutes. So Timber, similar as well. So I think that it can be looked at Edu, but I think that the club holistically have to look at some of these decisions as well and say, was that the decision of just him, or was that the decision of everyone? So I think overall, I think he's 10 years. I'd say 7.
Yeah, I think most are saying 7.
I'd say
I squeezed to the 8 because of taking us to where we've gone.
I can understand 8 completely as well, because I think ultimately you still got to remember where we were and where we took over. Like, the club was in a bad state. He dealt with COVID as well. There's so many things that you can contextualize and say that he's done a good job overall. The only reason why I probably edge on the side of caution and say 7 is because of some of the sales in general over the whole period. And maybe just, again, I would have hoped to do that. But again, also, just to add to that, the things in Brazil and all of those things, that's all our kind of beliefs and what we were hoping. Like, these things, he never necessarily said, well, I think he maybe mentioned something, but he never said, oh yeah, I'm going to pick up all the young Brazilians. That's kind of expectations that we maybe thought in our own kind of minds, if that makes sense, as opposed to it being like that was his mandate. His mandate ultimately was to get us competitive in the league again. And I think he's done that. So I'd say 7, but yeah, I can understand the 8. But I think there's way too much criticism over his tenure, and I think that there has to be a little bit of like perspective, calm down a little bit, a bit of perspective, a bit of realism as to where we were and where we are now. Of course, we want to win the league, but like.
I use this word over and over again. People say I'm too harsh with it. I genuinely think some of our fans are very spoiled and
100% and entitled. And I think that some people weren't even, maybe some of them maybe not even were fans when we were winning things all the time.
Or footballing. I like to say like footballing conscious, like, you know. Arteta's and Edu have been here a long time. You know, some people were 13 and they're now adults at this point.
Yeah, and genuinely some, like, obviously Arsenal's like, football's a lot more global now. Arsenal's a global sport. When we were in the Invincible, and maybe times slightly before that, some people genuinely may not have been fans. So they may not have also gone through the disappointments as well as some of the successes.
We've gone through the 2010s, mate. Going through the 2010s together.
And even the 90s, people forget before sure. We were struggling. Like, it wasn't all plain sailing. So I just think little bit of context.
If people understand, before we won the league in '89, like, how long it had been since Arsenal competed for the title. Like, it is entitlement, and it is. Raf, it's always a pleasure to catch up, mate. Hopefully we won't leave it too soon next time. But,
too soon next time?
Sorry, too long. Too long. I went too long. It's 2 hours, 10 minutes of a show melted my brain, Raf.
I know. We'll do a proper catch up whenever you're ready, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'll drop you a WhatsApp. Sounds good. All right, bro. Right, Ty's is up next. Let's get Ty's on. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Yeah, I'm very well, Tom. Yourself?
Tired, mate. Tired. I'm flagging. 2 hours, 11 minutes in.
Just going forward. It's John, by the way.
John. Nice to meet you, John. Put a proper name. Nice I know we've spoken before, but yeah, nice to put the proper name to Ty's. John, tell me what you're thinking.
I think some people have to calm down a little bit, because you say you've got some fans now. They're asking, they want it in glory right away, right now, because they come up through the Henry era and that. They need to have come through the era that I went through. We had people like Ian Selly, Glenn Helder, David Hillier, all in our midfield. And trust me, that was painful. And that was after we won the league.
Hopefully they're
not I've been through a lot of pain. But the thing is, you've got to realise, I think what Edu's done has been really, really good. I'll give him an 8 or a 9, because what you've got to realise, what Arteta does affects what he can do when he goes to sell players. And I think what they don't realise is, if you look at the squad that we had when Arteta come in, who's going to buy Kolasinac? Who's going to buy Mustafi? These were all really, really bad buys before Arteta and Edu even got there. Yeah, they're not worth nothing. Arteta had a fallout with Guendouzi, had a fallout with Aubameyang, didn't fancy Pepe. Pepe's form plummeted. So, in theory, Edu done the right thing. He loaned out players like Torreira, who was homesick. He loaned out Guendouzi, and that Aubameyang he had to get rid of straight away, because Arteta didn't want him in the building affecting the other players. Do you get what I mean? So that's going to have a knock-on effect.
Yeah, I don't need to interrupt because you're preaching.
Knock-on effect on who's going to buy them. Because if I'm a buying club and I want one of them players, I ain't going to come in and give you top dollar knowing farewell that you want rid of them. That's the way it works.
Who's buying? And the irony is that about those things is I always found it so funny that people absolutely bashed Edu for paying off contracts or like players leaving for free, and at the same time they'd be the ones abusing these players, calling them this, that, and the other for not being good enough when they were playing, and yet they then expect Edu to pull a rabbit out of his backside and get however many millions for these players.
Yeah, I think they also forget that it wasn't Edu that rejected the £25 million from Wolves for Maitland-Niles.
Yeah,
that was Rouse and Larry beforehand.
Yeah,
when we should have took that money there and then.
We should have.
You've got to realise that offering players like Reece Nelson and Eddie Nketiah new contracts was a way of being able to get money for them when we eventually sold them, because they were coming to the end of their contracts, which meant we had to keep them on for another year. If Eddie and Reece had gone at the end of their contracts, I'll guarantee you everyone would have been losing their mind. The fact that we never got no money for them.
John, let's switch focus then, because I've brought this point up. I think we align on Edu. Let's just see where we look at it going forwards, because the suggestions are, of course, the reports are suggesting this is a decision that he's taken himself, that he is taken, and that it's a surprise, what Sky have supposedly said. They've said it's a surprise to Arsenal that he's taken this decision. That bothers me. Why is he not finishing this project?
I don't know. I've just read somewhere saying that he went over to Brazil for some family time.
Right.
And he's over there for a couple of weeks, and then since he's come back from the family,
do you know what the source
since
was?
he's come back from the family time, it was on Sky News. I think it was. I read it on. They said that he'd gone away. He was in Brazil for a couple of weeks, and then come back, and then informed them that he wanted to then leave. Then obviously there's also this link then with Nottingham Forest that they've also tied in on it as well. I don't know whether it's a family issue or whether it's the fact that he wants to go for this thing.
Let me read this out just for the benefit of the listeners, John. Melissa Reddy from Sky tweeted saying, in October, we were told Edu was considering leaving Arsenal, but staff at the club had heard nothing about it. He was in Brazil on a family matter, returning late last week. Can't be overstated how much of a blow this is for Arsenal. So it seems that there is perhaps a personal side to that decision, in which case it does change the perspective of how we view that choice, because that has to be brought into consideration. So, because if it, like, hypothetically, if it was done because he was off to Nottingham Forest, I'd take real issue with that. But
yeah, I'll take issue for that, because I've looked at that group. I know it's a group of 4 clubs, but they're not the 4 greatest clubs in the world that you're talking about.
No.
So I'd wonder why you'd want to leave such a project like this to go to Nottingham Forest and 3 clubs that we've probably never even heard of as well, to try and take over that sort of group. They also lead me to the fact that whilst Arsenal ain't been trying to look at this multi-club model as well, which I think we've spoken about before, that Arsenal should probably be looking into as well, which Edu could have probably overseen that side of it. It's a family issue. You can't say nothing about that because it's a family issue. I'm not a sporting director person. I don't know who there are out there that's sporting directors. They're not as not the same as managers, where you can say this person, this person, and this person.
Well, it's not a well-versed area. Like Monchi was a famous one that people knew about from his work at Sevilla and now Villa. But it's not a well-versed area to.
You got to be careful, because everyone's got to be aligned on this. As you say, like we had Raul saying Larry, who've done some really weird deals whilst he was with us. And they brought in this guy who's supposed to be the diamond eye.
Sven Mislintat.
Other than Saliba, I don't really
wasn't even him. Saliba wasn't even him.
I don't really see the diamond that he brought us. So it's hard to try and pinpoint who's this guy going to come in that's going to find these ones. But I like what he's done. He's brought in Premier League experienced players, tall players, made us more aggressive. We've gone down the Wenger route, that he looked at Barcelona after we'd been strong, looked at Barcelona the way they went, made us all little players, technical players. We started getting bullied in the Premier League because it didn't work that way.
Yeah.
We then had to try and find our way back. And Edu's seen that the physicality in Arteta, physicality needs stronger, bigger players. And we bought that. And I think we've got to that level. If you look at the Mudryk deal, they wanted £100 million. I think £20 million of that they wanted to go to the Ukraine war, which Arsenal weren't willing to pay. And I've never seen a player look more unhappy about moving to a club in all my life than Mudryk when he was getting unveiled. We then went and got Trossard. Trossard's been brilliant with us since he's come with us. He's not Odegaard. I don't like him in that role. He's not an Odegaard. Caicedo. If we got Caicedo, we wouldn't have got Rice.
Yeah.
And just because you've already pointed out with financial fair play.
Yeah.
And people got to realise there is financial fair play in the background here that we have to do. So
People don't want to accept that though, John. They don't.
Yeah. Because if like the other guy was saying early on, oh, why can't we just put money in? Then Newcastle would be top of the league by now. Because I guarantee you they would have pumped so much money into that club, we would have all been finished.
Yeah, exactly.
And so would Man City. So you've got to look at it, and they reckon that people like Pep don't. I looking online. Pep don't make bad choices. So they've had what's it called? A couple of their players that ain't made it. So you got Mendy, you've got Calvin Phillips.
Mateus Nunes hasn't been particularly great.
Yeah, Nunes, Danilo. So you then go down through some of
Calvin
the other
Phillips.
ones. Calvin Phillips is in there. There's some players in there that you wouldn't even have heard of.
Yeah.
They actually bought what's it called? Pablo Mari as well.
They did. I don't know how much Pep
Claudio Brava, Nolito, Claudio Arici. There's so many players. So when you start pointing out Runnison, if you don't think that teams like Man City are trying to look for a young player coming through to bring to their squad on the cheap, and then it don't work out, like Pablo Vieira, he's got brilliant technical ability. He can strike a ball. Problem is, he hasn't built himself up physically, and I think that's what one of the reports were from Arsenal was that he wasn't bringing the physicality to the training sessions. He wasn't developing that side of his game to get himself into the club.
Yeah,
but he could have been someone. If you look at his abilities, passing ability is brilliant. His what's it called? His technical ability is brilliant. He can strike a ball. Problem is, he's not physical enough for this league. So you've got to have ones that are gonna not work out now and again. But you have to. If you look at the price of players nowadays, you have to try and look at that market, try and get someone in on a cheap who may be a diamond that you then develop. If they don't develop, that's on the player as much as what it could be on the management. Do you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
I think that it's a reality where I think people have a warped reality of what is kind of like, if they are in charge of the club, they think they would run it this way, and that reality doesn't exist. It's not to say that we are perfect or the decisions that Arteta or Edu have made are always correct. They're not, and that's why he doesn't have a perfect score from me, because it can be better. And I sincerely hope that the person that comes in to replace Edu, if and when that happens, is somebody better. And I think, you need to start looking at clubs around, Europe, and you need to start looking at clubs like Bayer Leverkusen, for instance. I think you need to start looking at clubs that have, have really overachieved, and you look at the recruitment, the history of the players that they brought in, and try and see if you can then find somebody who can come from those clubs to Arsenal and continue that work as well, because it's an incredibly difficult job to replace Martin Odegaard, but I'd argue that it's arguably harder to replace the guy that recruits everybody at the football club. So every playing member anyway. But
I think
final thoughts, John.
You've done a show recently, and I was watching it, and it's going, well, if you don't get Sesko, and Sesko's his own choice. He wanted to stay there for his own development, because there are other clubs in for him. It wasn't that we didn't try hard enough. He wanted to stay there for his own development.
Yeah.
We done a show. Who else out there do you want to go for? Now the financial.
When we've been told that we can't spend Declan Rice money. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can't get Gyökeres. So he's out of the picture.
Yeah.
You want Nico Williams. Nico Williams doesn't want to leave where he's at the moment because of what happened with his brother.
And if he does, it will be to Barcelona.
Yeah, and he's even turned down Barcelona at the time being. So is that our fault? I was a big advocate for Dani Olmo back in January before he had the Euros and then went to Barcelona. But if Barcelona are going to come in for him, most Spanish players will go to Barcelona or Real Madrid. Plus, he's
going to go there and start. Whereas, he's going to be behind Odegaard at Arsenal.
So I don't like the criticism that fans got. Oh, it's not my job to pick these players. But if you're going to be there and you want to get online and you want to criticise and all the rest of it, back yourself up and say, who else out there can we get within the financial restrictions that we actually have? Do you get what I mean? Because at the end of the day, 100%. We've gone from a squad that was crap, and we've now been put up now to be probably one of either the first or the second most expensive squad in Europe. So now when we go to sell players, we will make a profit.
As we are.
We haven't got, we haven't got Kolasinac now, and they're making sure they're tying every single one up on long-term deals, which was another criticism the fan base had. We never had people on long-term deals, so we was losing people on freeze. Everyone's doing it. So they've done it with Eddie, done it with Nelson, as well still get criticised
Mm.
because we have to keep them when we because they're in the final year. You have to put them on a contract, so they have to stay another year. You ain't going to put them on a contract and then sell them straight away.
Yeah, of
It's
course.
not going to work. So that ended up having to happen. So you got to look at it both ways. We bought Sterling, and I'm still really annoyed that Arteta still ain't played him on his favourite position on the left, because I thought Martinelli was having trouble against Livramento at the weekend, couldn't get past him, and I thought if you put Sterling down that side, put Zinchenko on to come into that midfield area, put Ben White on a little bit sooner because Partey never overlapped Saka once, so that was failing us. So we wasn't getting into our normal rhythm, and you needed people to get in behind. And every single time he's played Sterling, he's chucked him on the right. Sterling wants to come back on to his right foot, which is rather than cutting in onto his right foot, which is then hampering him.
Yeah.
Havertz is coming too deep. I putting Jesus in at left wing when you've got a Sterling there who's done his best work there. And if people keep saying to me, Jesus defends better, then why do we even bought Sterling?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't see the point. Because otherwise,
the Sterling one, without question, was always, as we know, a panic deal. Like, there's no way you can beat around that bush. It was a panic
deal. I think it's a good deal if you play him in his right position. But I think
it's still not. It was still a panic. Like, there's no. We had to get it in. Yeah.
Yeah, but Carragher made a good point. But even still, Edu made a blinding deal on that. Half the wages, no transfer fee. So you still get criticised for that, even though we're not paying that much for him. But that brings it into Carragher. I think he's got, since Odegaard's gone, he's become a little bit too defensive and wanted to nick goals on the break and then just hold it. And I think we've got players on there like Ranieri who could have come on sooner to push Havertz further forward because Havertz was dropping too deep. Trossard never done nothing in that entire game. So if Ranieri come on for Trossard, you put Sterling in for Martinelli, put Zinchenko in to get that midfield going and then get the overlap early for White. I don't know how bad his fitness was. We could have probably got back into that game. But I think some of these choices, as to the reason why we don't get big transfer fees, you've got to look at the players themselves. You've got to look at the way the manager's been playing them in the league as well. So you can criticise Edu for so much, but you've got to look at the manager and the way and the players' attitude, and also the way sometimes the manager treats the players as well in the squad in terms of playing them. That's how you're going to get a good transfer value. I think we've got it there, but I do reckon we lack creativity. And I did make this point in the summer that if Odegaard had got a big injury, who was there to then take up that mantle? And we've been kind of like coasting so far for a couple of games and been lucky. And it's come home to roost in the last 3 games, so to speak. So
yeah, and we've got to now turn it around. Because if we don't, we're going to be in real trouble, especially with 2 big games. You lose to Chelsea, and that's a really, really, really bad place to be at that point.
Well, I think they say Odegaard's back for Inter, hopefully.
Maybe.
So if he's back, if he gets a couple of minutes at Inter, if he gets a couple of minutes against Inter, comes back fully against Chelsea, that's good. We can probably get back into our normal rhythm. But I think it's now a shame that come January, we need to now look at getting a playmaker in who can cover him. I think Ranieri's it, but it's a lot of pressure for a 17-year-old.
It is a lot of pressure. A versatile forward is what I want to see. You know,
but then I've seen Fabregas come in at 16 and absolutely boss it.
Exactly. I don't like the whole age thing. So, like, you know, if he's good enough, he's playing. You know, it's as simple as
and he looks a lot physically stronger than Fabregas and Wiltshire. So I think he can do it, but I do think you need that another more experienced one in there as well to help out.
Yeah,
we definitely needed a forward in the summer. I think we
in the summer
but it's who's out there. Like there was the guy from, is it PSV or?
Oh, you mean Jimenez from Feyenoord? Yeah,
you got Jimenez, Gorkares, and Sesko. They were the 3. Yeah. Other than that, who else is out there that you ain't going to get for paying 80, 90 million pounds?
By Leverkusen is someone to look at. I don't know how he's been getting on this season. I can't say I've been across Jimenez and what he's been doing. But rather, what's his name? I've just forgotten it. But Jimenez this season's got 4 goals in 7, 2 assists. So far, 2 goals in 5 Eredivisie games. Who's the other one that we mentioned a second ago? Gyökeres obviously has been scoring a lot of goals. Sesko has only scored in 1 Bundesliga game this season. I I think maybe 2 now. Did he score? He scored at the weekend, so he scored in
Yeah,
2
he
of
scored,
the
he scored
first.
at the weekend. I saw that
Yeah,
goal.
he scored 2 of the first 9 games. He's
done well
scored.
in the Champions League as well. I think
He scored 2. He scored 3 and 3. Yeah, in the Champions League, 2 against Juve and 1 against Atletico Madrid. So
he seems more suited to the Havertz sort of style. He's big. He's got quick feet. He can crack a goal. So he looks more like the sort of player that we're looking for. They want taller, stronger, physical, technical players. By the looks of it, but who else is out there? That's the thing. All these people.
That's going to be on the next man to find him, isn't it? It's going to be on the next man to find those players. John, I've got to move on. It's been an absolute pleasure as always to talk with you. Thank you, mate. Take care, fella. Have a good one.
Bye.
Lovely stuff. Couple more. I've got 4 people waiting. I had said a while ago that the phone lines are closed because I've got jobs to do. Despite being thing is, when you have a day off and you're married, you get given this list. Mrs. sends through on WhatsApp little list of jobs. I've got to do them. So otherwise, I'm going to be in the doghouse. So so far, Oz and Leo, I'm going to try and get them on. Bobby, I'm really sorry, we're going to run out of time. Mohammed hasn't got his camera on, so I can't get him on. So Oz is up next. He's been very patient. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Greetings from Indonesia.
Indonesia, fantastic. How global our listenership
and is. I just want to say, Tom, you're my inspiration to make my own YouTube channel right now.
You must not be exposed to many Arsenal content creators in that case. No, I really appreciate the kind words, mate. Tell me where you're at with Edu.
I in the ratings 1 to 10, I'll rate him 7.
7, yeah.
Because some of his recruitments, I think, how can I say this? The backup is before you said that he doesn't get his first targets.
Yes,
many of his first target is not
Someone
coming.
said that.
And yeah, that's a problem. Although his backup signings are good, I mean, like Trossard, and who else? But many his first target is not coming, and I think that is a problem. So that's why I gave him a 7, because
that's fair enough.
backup,
There are players that we've missed out on. You know, Mudryk we went for, didn't get. Caicedo we went for, didn't get. Vlahovic, you could argue, but I know that Jesus was a player that we looked at.
I just also want to say Sesko. I mean, like, I think we have a very good chance to get him early this season. What do you think?
I think that, as John pointed out on the last call, that Sesko was quite content to stay another year and develop at Leipzig, because he knew if he went to Arsenal, he wasn't going to start immediately. So I think for that reason, there was that. And also, he wanted a resolution before the European Championships. He wanted to sort out his future before then. And Arsenal didn't have the freedom at that point, because obviously, if you remember, we sold Smith Rowe, Ramsdale, Nketiah, loaned out a couple of the others, Vieira, Nelson, right before deadline day. So at that point, when the money had come in and we'd confirmed that we got that money in, there wasn't really time to then go for that play, which gives me hope that January, hopefully we can do something special in terms of bringing in players, because there should be some freedom
I hope
to
so
spend.
too.
Yeah, so we won't see.
And
Last comments, because I'm conscious of the time as well still, so I know you've been waiting very patiently.
And thank you for the time.
No, I'm going to ask you another question. Don't go. I'm going to ask you one more.
Sorry.
In terms of how you see this changing going forwards, like, you've given him Edu a 7, so clearly you thought he did an okay job, but are you worried or excited about the next step?
Truthfully worried.
Don't lie to me.
Truthfully worried, because it's in the middle of the season, and we still have things to do until the end of season. I think for January, transfer window, that's a problem, because it's very near, right?
Yes.
So that's
we don't know when he's leaving. It should be pointed out. It might be that he's staying to the end of the season. It might be that he's leaving next week. We don't really know.
Still, it's a worry, because he announced it now. I mean, that would make some people like guessing, if I go to Arsenal now, will it still be the same management? I think that that would make some player worried too. I don't know. For me, I think it's a worry because we still is in the middle of the project and it's the middle of the season. So truthfully, I'm worried. But at the end of the day, if he has to go, he has to go, and we have to find a better person for the job, and that's it. And that goes to the crown keys
Yep.
to get the best person for the job, and that's it. I think that's ultimately we can only voice our concern, but the end decision it's on the crown keys, and I hope they can get a better sporting director than
Me
Edu.
too, because it's very important that we do get that man or woman in, because it's going to be very, very interesting to see where Arsenal go with it, because I think there are clubs out there that have recruited very well in the last few years and have benefited as a result. You look at Bayer Leverkusen, for instance, being one of them. You could argue that Napoli, Atalanta have had some very good recruitment in recent years in Serie A. So we'd be interested to see, of course, if Arsenal move for any of those European contenders. Oz, thank you so much for your time and your kind words.
Thank you also. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it. Nice to speak with you. Thank you, mate. Lovely stuff. More evidence there of our fantastic global community that we've got at the well, we've got two more callers, and I've got time on the recording for one more, and they've called heads and tails. Got a coin. So if it lands this side up, it's going to be Leo. If it lands this side up, it's going to be Mohammed. So, and it's this side. What did I say? That's tails, right? So I think that's Mohammed. Sorry, Leo. I'm afraid you've lost out on the coin toss. Mohammed's up. Otherwise, I'm going to run out on my memory of recording. I'm sure Leo's a member of the Discord, so we'll be getting onto a preview show very, very soon. You'll see him soon. Mohammed, thank you for your to be fair to Mohammed, he's been waiting about 3 hours to come on. So how you doing, man? You good? You well?
Hey Tom, how you going?
I'm very good, man. Yourself?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. Sorry, I had the camera on. I'm just in it's nighttime out here in Melbourne, and I'm in the car.
What time is it over there?
It's 9:40 p.m.
9:40. Wow. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Time zones. Madness. Anyway, Edu, you're the last caller, so it's got to be a good one. Tell me your thoughts.
Look, obviously, the timing of it, it's just it's not good. I don't like it, to be honest. The timing of it. I'm a massive believer of stability, and I do like, everything being stable across the whole season. You're already dealing with suspensions, injuries, and all of that, especially the loss away to Newcastle as well. It just makes it feel like everything's all unraveling. But I do I do feel sorry for Edu, because honestly, if you look at all the players that he brought into the club, I think most of them have been success.
Yes.
Obviously, we're going to have a few of those players who, they gamble on and, not working out. People bringing up players like Runnison and... No, honestly, come on.
Yeah, I know. That's all they've got, though, Mohammed. That's all they have. So they've got to point to someone, so it's going to be Runnison.
Yeah, no, sorry, my light just went off. But look, I do feel like he has been a success. Honestly, I do feel like it's been an 8 as well for Edu. Just if you just look at the players that he brought in, Odegaard, our captain, our talisman, Gabriel, an absolute rock, and just the way he's improved from year on year as well. Declan Rice, obviously, probably one of the best defensive midfielders in the world now. There's just so many great players that he has brought in for the club. And on top of also filtering out a lot of, with all due respect, dead wood basically, and finding it very, very hard to sell them. So we had to kind of just force them out. So all of these things, when you add up all of these things, also as well, you have to understand as well, they've rebuilt the club, Edu and Arteta, and there's a saying in Australia. I'm not sure if you ever followed Aussie rules football, that rebuild coaches and structures don't last distance. And at times that is true, because don't forget, you're resetting a whole club, a whole organization, and this is Arsenal Football Club. Honestly, you know, my teenage years and my early 20s, like I'm 30 now.
Yeah.
And my early 20s have just been littered with constant Arsenal failures and all of these things.
You and me both, man. You and me both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there is something in the generational side of it. Like from my perspective, like I'm 20, I'm 30 in 2 weeks, and I don't like talking about it, but I am 30 in a couple of weeks, and obviously my understanding of the Invincibles, like I was very young when that happened. I was only 10 when it happened, which is, you know, footballingly conscious, I would describe myself as, but my understanding of football, my knowledge of football, my understanding of the game, behind the scenes, everything, you know, that really developed in my, like from when I was like 16 onwards, really. And by that time, we're talking, you know, late noughties, early 2010s. And for a long time, we've been really out in the cold as a club. And that's what I think that maybe people would understand. Maybe it's a younger generation thing that they've experienced only the last few years, really, to a high level of understanding football that they see it, or you look at it from an older generation perspective. Obviously, I've seen huge successes and seen invincible seasons and 89 and, you know, the double winning years and things like this, and they think that we should be doing more. So, you know, it's I think there is something in the generational side of it, of a kind of a view of Arsenal and a view of how you absorb it and then for have a context of it and how maybe you chose to be an Arsenal fan as well. But it's tough. Just quickly, Matt, before you go, I think you gave it an 8 out of 10, didn't you, in terms of what the job Edu's done? Any idea as to a prediction of whether you think the person that comes in will do, without knowing who they are, which is very hard, but a better or a worse job? What would you expect?
I think like I always welcome like fresh ideas. Obviously, I just would prefer that if it happened at the end of the season, you know, like whatever reason that Edu has moved on. At the end of the day, like, you know, we'll find out eventually. Just unfortunately not now. Look, there's no option really for Arsenal because you have to understand, like, we're right at the top now. We're right on the cusp of you know, breaking out and winning those elusive first titles. So like I am very optimistic.
Yeah.
And like I did to be honest, like I did feel like there was a change looming, but I didn't think it was gonna be sudden.
This is taking us by
Yeah.
surprise. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
huge
So,
shock.
I'm hopeful and optimistic because like we're in such a strong position. People have to understand this. And you know, at the end of the day, Edu wasn't the be all and end all. That's the reality.
No one person ever is. I hate it when people think that one person is bigger than the club because they never are.
Yeah,
So,
he came in to do a job, and you know, who knows? Maybe his job was just all about getting this club back up again. And if that was what Edu was tasked to do, you know, that is success in its own right. So I think the next person that comes in is going to obviously have to reap the benefits of it as well, which means being able to sell players for much more, you know, being able to get better players as well. Obviously, you know, that's that means that the board would have to be him and all that as well. So
indeed.
I'm hopeful at the end of the day, and that's all you know you can't be at this stage because this happened so suddenly. So
indeed,
I think it will take some time as well. Sometimes when things happen suddenly, there's that initial shock. And look, right now, your Twitter's probably going off. To be honest,
I'm not on it as much these days.
Everyone's other and stuff. You know, a lot of revisionism, people saying, "Oh, see, look, I told you," or whatever.
Oh yeah, those weirdos. Yeah. Mohammed, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it. And enjoy the rest of your evening, pal.
Take care, buddy.
Thanks, Mohammed. Leo stuck around. I'm going to get him on just for a quick word on Edu. Leo, tell me your thoughts before you wrap up. I know you weren't expecting that, but I felt bad. So give me a quick monologue on your view.
Everything's bad. We should sack everybody and we should start supporting.
Brilliant.
I don't know. Now, honestly, it's difficult. I mean, I've seen many views. Obviously, on Twitter, there's always a meltdown, whatever happens. And I don't know if my internet connection is good.
No, you're
and
fine.
You can
You're
hear
fine.
me.
You're fine.
Okay, cool. Obviously, there's a meltdown everywhere you go, but it's business. And it seems like he is going to Newcastle to Nottingham, and
Does
he's
it?
just getting
Where does it
more
seem that he's
power.
going? Where does it seem that he's doing that?
I've seen it from Sam C or something. I don't know. A few reports. I've just checked now. Honestly,
Sam
I
C,
joined the.
He's a bit of an RTK, isn't he?
Oh really? I thought he's like.
No.
Oh no! That's not.
He's an
That's not where I
aggregator.
saw it from. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll show. I'm not gonna scroll now. I'll send it to you if I find it. Anyway, if he goes somewhere where he has a better job, I mean, it's business and it's fine. As long as we can basically gain some positive on this, I think it would be smart to get somebody that can challenge Arteta on his views now, because I think Edu was very much in the same boat as him, and he helped to build what we have now, a very successful, challenging team. But maybe for the next step, because somebody coming in that can say no, basically, to Arteta and, provide a different outlook, maybe it could be actually beneficial to us. So it's not all doom and gloom. And, I mean, can we improve upon Edu? Definitely. Can we do a lot worse than Edu? Definitely. So we'll see. I'm not depressed because Edu's leaving.
No, neither am I. I'm not like, I'm surprised and I'm concerned,
the main thing,
but I'm excited somewhat to see what happens next and where the direction goes from a recruitment standpoint, because we had this guy, he's got his connections in Brazil, didn't really use them. We've not really seen that market influenced really at all. So and it's not perfect. I think I've been very appreciative of the job that's been done, and I give credit to Edu for the amount of work that's gone into building a squad that now competes and has competed and gives us a better chance of winning things. But things definitely could have been better, and for that reason, I want to see more. Leo, you're our last caller today, so thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it, and thank you for being fast as well, because my head is pounding at this stage, and I'm going to shoot. So thank you, Leo.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Sue. Speak to you soon, Leo. Thank you. And that brings an end to our phone. And thank you so much to everybody that's tuned in today. Really appreciate all of it. We've been going for 2 hours. 2 hours and 45 minutes. We've been going for. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. And I hope you've enjoyed it. There's been a variety of views. We've been challenged. I've tried to challenge. And I hope that it's been enlightening. Maybe it's formed part of your opinion. I do want to stress, we don't know the full story yet. Like, it's all we know is that Edu is reportedly leaving Arsenal. We don't know when. We don't know if it's going to be immediately. We don't know if it's going to be January. We don't know if it's going to be the end of the season. We don't know the reasons as to why. We don't know what Arsenal's plans are. We know very little. And all we can talk about is Edu's tenure and our feelings around it. And I'm looking forward. It's shocking. It's concerning. It's also exciting. It's always exciting change, and there's always an opportunity for things to change and get better, and also to get worse. So it could go either way. We'll wait and see. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for our callers. Please do drop a like before you go. I'll be back with you tomorrow morning with more. Mikel Arteta does have a press conference tomorrow before the game against Inter, so you can imagine there'll be questions on that. Certainly so. But yes, stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful, and as always, up the Arsenal.